going south to try and avoid that, and that traffic jamming up Spine Road through Strandfontein Road and Summit sort of meeting into Witstrand Road, Baden-Powell. There's a lot of congestion going north out of Mitchell's Plain, but also if you're looking for quick routes down through the south side, it's also fairly heavy. And the M2 in the Cape Town looks like being a busy one this morning. We're currently queuing passing Khayelitsha towards the airport runway area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. It is soccer news. The Orlando Pirates coach, Jose Rivero, will be consigned to the stands, and that's due to suspension when Pirates face Marumo Gallants. And we also have rugby news. Former England defence coach Felix Jones will become an assistant coach with the Springboks. All this and more at around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Today is Friday, the 28th of February 2025. It's just gone 8 minutes after 6. Hey, good morning and welcome to it, the Friday edition of the Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Come, let us spend the next 3 hours together informing and engaging each other and sharpening each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. Coming up on the show over the next 3 hours, from bad to worse. HIV/AIDS programs and non-governmental organizations funded through the U.S.'s President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, that is PEPFAR, through the country's Agency for International Aid, USAID, are told to wrap up their operations as the Trump administration terminates their funding permanently. This means we went from a temporary 90-day pause of funding pending a review to a full-on termination within a matter of weeks. The consequences, as you can imagine, for the various aspects of our country's comprehensive HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment programs are dire. The CEO of the Desmond Tutu HIV Center, Professor Linda Gale Becker, will join me at about 6:40 this morning. In other news, AfriForum and Solidarity undertake a trip to the United States and engage, they tell us, with the Trump administration, with some officials from the Trump administration. If you thought their message to the Americans would be any different or tempered somewhat with all the widespread criticism they have endured over the last few weeks since Trump announced a pause for any and all funding to South Africa over false claims of Afrikaners being abused in this country, well, you'd be wrong. You thought wrong. In the memorandum that they submitted to those unnamed Trump administration officials, the lobby groups are asking for the U.S. government to put pressure on the ANC on matters that are quintessentially domestic policy issues. In the second hour of this show, I'll be in conversation with AfriForum CEO Kali Creel. That's just at the top of 7. And on this story now, believe it or not, over 1,000 families who were displaced in the aftermath of the devastating 2022 floods in KwaZulu-Natal are still waiting for permanent housing solutions. It seems the resettlement project has run into quite a few difficulties. Yesterday, if you were listening, you'll remember the conversation I had with the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC in KwaZulu-Natal, Thulasizwe Simelane, who told me that among the factors that contributed to the fatalities in the recent flooding in the province is that some of the people displaced from the 2022 floods were relocated to a transit camp on the banks of a canal without anticipating that there was, that the area itself was prone to further flooding. Well, the Department of Human Settlements in KwaZulu-Natal has a thing or two to say about those claims. I'll be in conversation with Ndabenhle Sibiya, who is the spokesperson of the Department of Human Settlements in KwaZulu-Natal, and that conversation coming up at about 10 to 8 this morning. And to this now, according to recent statistics, the price of mobile data has seen a significant reduction over recent years, with the cost of 1 gigabyte of data plummeting by about 67%, we are told, between 2019 and 2023. Based on these numbers, we are told South Africa has made strides in decreasing mobile data costs, but still ranks among the more expensive countries for mobile data. So we'll focus on that story at about 20 past 8. So that's in the third hour of the show. But I want to know from you, are you feeling what on paper looks like a substantial decline in the price of data? Is it any cheaper for you? Are you feeling it? I remember a few years ago there was the hashtag data must fall. And it really is an important conversation because that has to do with people's ability to access communications for their own purposes, but also for business and developmental purposes. A lot of people carry out their business through, media such as WhatsApp and the likes, advertising on social media and the likes. So it should readily be democratic in its nature, should data in the 21st century. But there's a big barrier when it's not affordable. So I'm wondering, given the reports that, data prices have plummeted some 67% between 2019 and 2023, are you feeling that impact? Are you finding that your data is more affordable? Of course, we've got all of your regulars locked and loaded for you once again this morning. And Musa with your news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Dowling Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. Of course, we are at SAFM on all of our social media platforms, but in particular on Facebook, we are SAFM Radio. We are at SAFM Radio on YouTube, and we are live on our YouTube channel as well. A bit of a complexity, don't worry about it, not too difficult in terms of how you get a hold of us. So for this morning, we ask that you send us a WhatsApp message to our WhatsApp number 061 410 4107. 061 410 4107. Send a WhatsApp message there and ask us to call you back if you'd want to comment on air on any of these topics that I've raised. A bit of a difficulty with our call lines this morning. So send a WhatsApp message saying, please call me, and just give a brief synopsis of what it is that you want to contribute about this morning. And then we'll call you back and be able to put you on air. So that's the arrangement that I asked that we put in place for today. But your WhatsApp voice notes will be able to take those. And as I said, the number for that is 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Over the last 50 years, one man has played an unparalleled part in transforming British society. This man is Rupert Murdoch. Feared by politicians, Murdoch has built the biggest media operation on the planet. His empire has given him extraordinary power and influence. The rise of the Murdoch family is an electrifying study of the Murdoch dynasty, charting the ups and downs of an empire. From the ambition that fueled its success, to the criminality that led to the closure of the News of the World and the Leveson Inquiry. This is The Rise of the Murdoch Family. Thursdays at 10 p.m. starts 13 February, only on S3.
Mzansi Africa. SABC Sport is searching for talented football commentators. Are you knowledgeable and passionate about football commentary? Are you a great storyteller of the beautiful game?
That's why they're very good in controlling the ball and keeping it in minutes.
Submit a 2-minute commentary clip in your South African language of choice to commentator at sabcsport.co.za. Also email your full name, surname and contact details. Closing date is on Friday, 7 March 2025. Only shortlisted candidates will be invited for the second round of auditions at SABC Studios in March. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Happy Friday to you, Anne.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Morning. What's on your bulletin this morning? What's leading?
Well, no extensions, no recommendations will be made to the President, the words of the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister. Today marks the final deadline for business owners to register with the municipalities in which they operate, and the Minister, Velenkosini Tlhabisa, is saying that there will be no further extensions with regards to the registration of spaza shops and food handling outlets. The registration drive, we know, follows the tragic deaths of more than 20 children last year from foodborne illnesses. We're also looking at efforts by the Social Security Agency in dealing with challenges relating to the upgrading of grant beneficiaries' cards. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Social Development also calling on mobile network providers to ensure SIM card fraud is curbed. Allegations of SIM card fraud are said to be affecting social grant recipients. President Cyril Ramaphosa lamenting government's delayed focus on early childhood development. He says mastering basic skills in reading and maths at foundation level sets the tone for how learners will perform in high school and beyond. AfriForum responding to the President's statement that AfriForum and Solidarity are sowing divisions in the country, and this is after a delegation of the two groups met with senior representatives of the U.S. executive with the aim of having the U.S. put pressure on the ANC to change its policies. And the AfriForum CEO Kali Kriel also saying that the President and ANC leaders need to take full responsibility for the U.S. decision to pull the plug on thousands of healthcare programs in South Africa. In court, a key witness in the VBS looting who is being kept in the state's witness protection unit for security reasons expected to testify in the corruption trial against the former mayor of the Thulamela local municipality. Abashoni Chifango allegedly received a vehicle valued at more than R500,000 rand as bribe after the municipality invested 30 million rand into the defunct bank. And just lastly, the Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu to deliver his State of the Province address, and his address expected to focus on socio-economic challenges that the province faces, and he will also highlight some successes of his government. So some of the stories that we will be focusing on.
All right, and thank you for that. Sorry. Oh, okay.
I don't blame you.
You're going to laugh at me today, yeah? Okay, that's fine.
It happens, man.
That's N. Musa. You'll be hearing from her every half hour with the news updates here on The Morning Brief.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We know that as the March 2025 deadline for matric rewrite registration approaches, there's going to be a fair amount of students from the class of 24 that have a valuable second chance to improve their national senior certificate results. What are the options that are available?
So one of the options would be, if they wanted to go into a higher education institution, would be rewriting the matric. Secondly, there's also, which is very downplayed, is the possibility of doing a qualification which is either a certificate or a diploma, which will also assist in getting that student into university. May take a little bit longer, but they would reach that goal eventually.
CEO of Star Schools, Vimala Ariana.
This is Bridget Masinga on SAFM. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
With Ford's Blue Sky offers, get a new Ranger XL from just $5,899 per month, including our optional service plan, only when financed through Ford Credit. 10% deposit, prime is 4.75%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. Ford Credit is a registered credit provider and an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
It's time to shine for young athletes across South Africa. From thrilling football and rugby matches to intense netball games. Experience the passion and prowess of Mzansi's finest young sports stars. Super Sports Schools and SABC Plus bring you the specially curated channel dedicated entirely to school and youth sports. Join us as we celebrate their achievements and bring the excitement right to your screens. The This is your chance to support the future of South African sports. The Super Sports Schools channel on SABC Plus, where every game is a home game. Don't miss a moment. Download the SABC Plus app today. Available on iOS, Google, and Smart TV. Or visit sabc-plus.com to start streaming. Super Sports Schools on SABC Plus. All the sport you care about most. Now streaming wherever you are.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business. Started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 992 395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
22 minutes after 6, let's give you a sense of your weather this morning on this Friday. There's only one warning, a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms leading to strong damaging winds, localized flooding of susceptible areas, roads, bridges and dirt roads, danger to life due to fast flowing streams, as well as localized damage to infrastructure. These conditions are expected over the eastern parts of the Northern Cape, western and southern parts of the Free State, eastern and southwestern parts of the Northwest, most parts of Gauteng, northwestern parts of Mpumalanga, and south central parts of Limpopo. So do take care as you go through your day today under those conditions. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 30. Johannesburg partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 29. Mbombela cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 27. Polokwane will have a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 27. No data there really provided in terms of the general weather. The South African Weather Service has been having a bit of difficulty since their website was hacked. Same goes for Mahikeng. In fact, Mahikeng we have partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 19 to 26. Bloemfontein partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 28. Kimberley partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 30. Uppington partly cloudy, 21 to 34. Cape Town cloudy, 18 to 25. George cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 24. Gqeberha cloudy with isolated showers and rain, the minimum there 20 and maximum 23. East London will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 20 to 24. Durban will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 22 to 27. Richards Bay will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 20 to 26. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers, 16 to 20.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Taiwan has condemned recent live fire drills staged by China's military near the island. The Taiwanese Defense Ministry says it recorded 45 Chinese aircraft and 14 warships in the area, marking the highest military presence detected this year. Let's speak now to Professor David Munyai, who is the Director for the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, good morning and thank you for your time once again. China describes this. Taiwan says this is a blatant provocation, but China says this is routine training. Which one do you think it is, given the context and background and backdrop of these exercises?
I think these are frequent events, actions taken by the Chinese authorities in reaction to statements and events, both global as well as internally within Taiwan itself. Recently, 2-3 days ago, there has been arrest of a cargo ship, a Chinese cargo ship, and arrest of Chinese nationals. So it could be just a reaction to that. And ongoing, given the ever-changing global landscape that Taiwanese themselves are looking at what's happening in the U.S. and China as well. And therefore, the manner in both China and Taiwanese authority are reacting has also to do with this ever-changing global landscape, which affects all of us, including South Africa.
Yeah, in fact, please say more about that. It seems that Taiwan is a bit jittery, given what has happened in the last while, the sea of changes that we are seeing, particularly in the stance of the United States in relation to global events, including the situation between Russia and Ukraine. Are they particularly jittery, the Taiwanese?
Oh, indeed. As we all watch, I think the major message coming from Ukraine is that you cannot trust the United States as an ally. You cannot trust to defend you. The constant change of administration and change of policy might put you in a quite dangerous situation, as the case with the Ukrainian as we speak, as well as the issue of tariffs. It doesn't matter how close you are to the United States. Europeans will tell you the same thing, South Africa and everyone, that you have to adjust to the new king in White House and everyone going to White House to deal with that. And Taiwanese are also reacting to that, and China will have to react to that, adjust. And therefore, I think for Taiwanese, there are no guarantees that they can depend on the United States in defending themselves or whatever move that they take, other than to move with one China policy. And therefore, I think all issues belong to the Taiwanese to decide, the population on the ground.
So you mentioned that there was an event before we saw this heightened military action and exercises by the Chinese military closer to Taiwan. You mentioned that there was this event that involved a Chinese ship, and it has a particular element, doesn't it, that incident of a few days ago, in that it has to do with subsea infrastructure of Taiwan.
Oh, indeed. I think according to the Taiwanese, they suspect that it was a sabotage, of which the Chinese are claiming that it had nothing to do with that. It's just an incident that took place. So this is an ongoing investigation within Taiwan, but with time we'll find out. I doubt very much if the Taiwanese will take any drastic measures, given the fact that there will be a strong reaction from China.
If I'm not mistaken, Prof, there is a kind of timeline within the Chinese approach to the question of Taiwan by which they would want full reunification one way or another. And in fact, they're not ruling out the possibility of the use of force. But am I correct in understanding that the Xi Jinping administration has got a time frame and a timeline that says by this date we should have achieved reunification?
Oh, indeed. According to the Americans, it's 2027 that they suspect that China will move in and unify forcefully the island of Taiwan. But for Chinese, they have been consistent saying that the day they claim sovereignty over Taiwan and independence is the day that they move in. So the situation is quite fluid. It depends with statement and action of international community, particularly Western powers, to trigger any possible move by China into Taiwan.
So lastly then, Prof, back to Washington. In 2022, the then U.S. President Joe Biden was asked if the United States would intervene militarily to defend Taiwan, and his answer was a positive one, that if it came to that, that would happen. Is there any telling what words would come out of Donald Trump if the question were to be posed today?
It appears to me that President Donald Trump is going back to strategic ambiguity, which is the traditional U.S. policy since 1979. However, given what has been happening, it appears that the United States look at China as the only major adversary in their own situation. Therefore, on one hand, given the transactional nature of President Trump, it appears that he might not be interested in any war. But at the same time, it appears that the United States is preparing militarily to deal with China as the only lack of a better word, enemy pulling out President Putin and Russia out of the equation.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you for your time once again there. That's Professor David Munyai, who is the director for the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Vilinkosini Hlabisa says the deadline for the registration of food handling outlets, including tuck shops or spaza shops, would not be further extended. Today is the deadline for the registration of the businesses. The Social Security Agency, SASSA, says it plans to put in place measures to deal with the challenges related to the upgrading of grant beneficiaries' cards. And U.S. President Donald Trump says he and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky will sign a historic agreement at the White House today. Trump says the deal will make the U.S. a major partner in developing Ukraine's minerals in addition to exploring oil and gas. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretoria first up. If you're living Shoshanguve area, there's some big traffic this morning. Mopani Highway at Theo Martins and the alternative Soutpan Road coming into Onderstepoort. Pretty heavy backlogs through there as well. The R55 from Blue Hill heading down to Crowthorne. Slightly different traffic pattern this morning. Looks like something going on before you get to that sort of Arthur Road junction. And the Mike 1's already backlogging from around Gold Reef City through to Empire Road. Very misty between Pietermaritzburg and Howick, up and down Town Hill. Hilton area, drive carefully. Lights on, please. Durban's N2 South has some early morning pressure with a breakdown at Spaghetti Junction and a queue pushing back already past Umgeni Road. And Cape Town, Symphony Way through Delft, going up and down to and from the Stellenbosch arterial. Some unusual backlogging there as well. And just what we're seeing unfolding recently in Cape Town, quite a phenomenon. It's so heavy coming out of Mitchell's Plain going north. AZ Berman, R300 Velthreden Road. Those routes queue from about 5:30 in the morning. What we've seen is a lot of traffic out of Mitchell's Plain going south to avoid the run north, going south out through Strandfontein. So routes like Baden Powell, Spine Road, Strandfontein Road in that Strandfontein area are carrying so much more traffic. I heard the other day 50 minutes just to get out of Strandfontein onto that Spine Road traffic. So quite heavy traffic in that part of Cape Town again today. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. So Orlando Pirates will be taking on the Gallant Spears Marumo Gallants in the Betway Premiership tomorrow, but without their 12th man on the sidelines there, Jose Rivero.
I know. Pirates playing without their coach. I'm not sure what this means. They probably will want to come in hot, but I can only picture how he'll be feeling watching from the stands.
He'll be coaching by WhatsApp.
Oh, a walkie-talkie? How does it work? Anyway, so let's just see now if Pirates can turn their games into points in the bags, because they do apparently have a game plan. Their coach saying that even though he's in the stands due to suspension, they will be confident of a win when they face host Marumo Gallants in the Betway Premiership match. All going down Free State Stadium tomorrow. Now, Gallants are set to begin a new era. They have a Moroccan tactician, Abdesalam Ouadou, possibly taking charge of his first match, paperwork pending, of course, or Duncan Lechesa and Sundra Govender will continue as interim coaches. This comes into the Pirates clash, and of course, Marumo Gallants, they have a 5-game winless run in the league. They're sitting just one position, and that's 2 points above the relegation playoff zone. Pirates are chasing an 8th win in the space of 9 matches across all competitions. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs and the Bafana international centre-back Rushwin Dortley is readying himself to come against the deadly attack trio of Mamelodi Sundowns, Lucas Ribeiro, Costa, Peter Shalulila and Ikram Reyners come tomorrow. The 3 strikers have scored a combined 25 goals to the 46 that Sundowns have scored in the league this season in 19 matches. In almost every league game Sundowns have played this season, one of the strikers contributed to the goals, but Dortley doesn't seem to fear them.
They're all good players, but at the end of the day, if they good in scoring and you're good in defending, you know, if you're on the day, you bring your best game like they bring their best game, it's head on, you know. So it's just for all of us on that day to bring our A game, bring what the management saw in order to bring us here, bring that game out of yourself, push yourself, and then I think we will go head on.
On to cricket, and the former England captain Kevin Pietersen has joined the Indian Premier League team, the Delhi Capitals, as mentor for the upcoming edition of the lucrative T20 tournament. The 44-year-old batting great joins a team he captained in 2014, and his last IPL season as a player came 2 years later. He has been a popular and outspoken TV analyst in recent seasons. And golf news, South African professional Cassandra Alexander signed for a course record 8 under par 64 to lead the second round of the Sunshine Ladies Tour's Jabra Classic at Westlake Golf Club. Alexander, the winner of the 2023 Jabra Ladies Classic, bettered the previous women's course record of 66 and took the lead in this tournament on 9 under par overall. That's a wrap of your morning brief sport. There'll be more top of the hour. I'm Zaikan.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. And Ndauling, let's start with news out of the Chinese company Tencent. Tell me about them unveiling their new AI model.
Morning, Tulas. Now, things are heating up in the AI space with Tencent, the latest to join the ranks of tech giants scrambling to develop AI models that can rival DeepSeek, the startup that has shaken up the global AI sector. Now, Tencent says its latest AI model, Hunyuan Turbo S, boasts faster response times and lower deployment costs. This move is part of a broader effort by tech companies to catch up with DeepSeek. Now, since DeepSeek's emergence, major industry players within the country, such as Alibaba and Baidu, have unveiled their own AI models, sparking competition in the sector. Now, DeepSeek's arrival somehow dismantled assumptions about the economics of building AI and the best technical methods for developing the technology. The startup's success has also created hope for a renaissance of some sorts among China's leading internet companies. And over the past few weeks, those stocks have been rallying on the back of improved sentiment. And when I talked to some analysts, you can tell there's renewed confidence about these counters. Some happily to invest directly into the companies, others playing it safe, saying you can get exposure through the likes of Naspers process on the JSE.
So what's the name of the AI model?
Hunwan. Yes.
So it will be ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or Hunwan?
Yes.
All right. Out of mining, Dowling, tell me about Impala Platinum, warning of the potential for further restructuring efforts.
The company's CEO, Nico Miller, has described, the current market conditions as anemic, saying there's potential for further restructuring efforts to less. And this comes on the back of lower PGM prices and lack of confidence in the sector, with many not expecting prices to recover soon. And this announcement comes alongside Implat's half-year numbers, where it recorded a 4% drop in production, while earnings plunged 43% due to tough market conditions. Now, Implats has already implemented cost-cutting measures, announcing job cuts of up to 3,900 last year. Other measures included an 18% reduction in stay-in-business capital spend and a 73% cut in replacement capital. However, the company may need to take further action to address challenges at certain operations, including Impala Canada, Marula Mines, and at some Rustenburg shafts. Mala identified Impala Canada as vulnerable to restructuring due to its limited life of mine and high dependence on palladium prices. Now, in light of all the news and the current market conditions, Implats has decided not to pay an interim dividend, although it may reassess this decision at the end of the year.
All right, please give us our first roundup of market activity for this morning.
Now, starting with what's played out overnight, U.S. markets under pressure after President Donald Trump's declaration that tariffs on Canada and Mexico would proceed as planned. We also saw a negative reversal in bellwether stock Nvidia following those earnings that we saw on Wednesday. Now, this weighing heavily on the Nasdaq, which shed over 2% by the close, and that negative sentiment is also being felt locally, with the JSE closing in the red yesterday. The all share down 1.1%, fueled by losses in the Resources 10 complex, which shed 1.7%. Now, despite the volatility, the rand remaining stable at 18.49 to the dollar this hour. Then over in Asia, markets also downbeat. That sentiment that we saw in the US just filtering through across the board. Trade jitters, of course, are in focus as traders assess an additional 10% tariff on China that'll also come into effect next month.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lichela. That's the first of her 3 reports for you. Look out for the second one coming up just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
S3 and Lorna Maseko are adding flavor to your Wednesday evenings. Lorna invites you on a journey of discovering new ways of transforming South African pantry staples into delectable and budget-friendly meals. From reimagining traditional South African dishes to infusing global inspirations, Lorna's inventive recipes and seasoned cooking tips inspire creativity and will empower viewers to navigate the kitchen with savvy resourcefulness. Tune into Lorna's Pantry, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Masandawana say they're in the business of winning matches, but Amakhosi have a big agenda to stop the log leaders. Naturena confronts Tlurko. Kabuyelo battles it out with Golden Black. This is the Betway Premiership. Witness Mzansi's clash of giants. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus Kaizer Chiefs FC. This Saturday, 1 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, as I did say at the start of the show, that just for today, we have this arrangement that instead of you dialing the number that we just gave you to call us to contribute to the conversation, would rather you send us a WhatsApp message that says, please call me and short and sharp tell us what you want to talk about, and then we'll call you back. We're just dealing with a bit of an issue, but we always make a plan, and we've been able to take a few of your calls. Let's start with Vincent in Midrand. Good morning to you, Vincent. You wanted to talk to me about AfriForum this morning.
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe. You know, Thulas, I'm increasingly worried about AfriForum and solidarity, the way that they're doing things in our country. Going outside and bad-mouthing us, you know, as if they're running a parallel foreign policy. So I think that as a country, we have to stand together against these racists and try to resist their intentions. Because in other countries, this will be tantamount to treason, you know, because nobody is allowed to run against an elected government, especially when it comes to foreign policy, because that's where the whole world will be watching. I heard AfriForum yesterday saying that the president must take responsibility for Donald Trump's, cut off of the aid that he gave to us. So it didn't only happen here in South Africa, also in Kenya and Malawi. I was reading they also cut off the ties, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we must nip this in the bud to us as a country, and
sure,
if possible, try to deregister them.
You're saying, if possible, try to deregister them as an NPC, non-profit company, yeah?
Yeah, because they are not doing this country any good. If anything, NPOs are supposed to work for the good of the country, but they are working against us. What do they stand to benefit if we lose all the aid that we need from the world?
Yeah. All right. No, thank you for that, Vincent. Of course, I'll be in conversation a bit later on, just after 7 a.m. with Kali Creel. And in fact, I'll put through some of what Vincent has said and suggested to see what the response will be from Kali.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
to this now at 6:45. Projects funded by the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, that receive their funding through U.S. aid have had their grants terminated globally, including South Africa. Some of these projects have been ordered to cease operations immediately. These terminations have led to widespread concerns as crucial HIV prevention and treatment programs are now at risk, leaving thousands of vulnerable individuals without vital healthcare services. Let's speak to Professor Linda Gale Becker, who is the CEO of the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. We went from a temporary pause pending a review, pause of 90 days pending a review, to an immediate termination. What are the implications? I've seen the words of Dr. Kate Rees, who says we are being pushed off a cliff. I've seen words attributed to Yvette, Raphael and Sbongile Chabalala saying this is tantamount to a death sentence. In your understanding, what are the implications?
Certainly, I think there's reason for concern. Across our region, these PEPFAR services have been critical for reaching individuals who either aren't already receiving antiretrovirals or have, for whatever reason, taken a break from their treatment, in addition to, very importantly, providing HIV prevention inputs. And this includes to prevent vertical transmission of HIV from mothers to unborn children, as well as young women and girls, and of course, very vulnerable populations of men who have sex with men and other LGBT community who don't always find it easy to come into our health facilities. So these are the gaps that these services have been providing.
Can you make heads or tails, Prof, of the approach here? Because just not so long ago, we were reporting that PEPFAR funding that flows down the stream of CDC, Centers for Communicable Diseases, that agency of the U.S., those had resumed because of the waiver that is in place. But on the other hand, we are reporting that PEPFAR funding that flows through U.S. aid, that has now been terminated. Does it make any sense?
It doesn't really, except that it does look like the Trump administration has decimated USAID in the States. And it looks like all of the USAID grants around the world, but including the PEPFAR grants to South Africa, were reviewed very rapidly. And these termination letters actually state that due to the convenience of the State Department, these grants are being terminated because they do not align with the American people, and very terse, very not really a sort of grant by grant assessment. It really looks like a sort of across the board stroke of the pen of all the USAID grants, as I say, around the world.
Yeah, I didn't see the name of the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation on that list. Are you one of the organizations directly in the pathway of this hurricane of changes?
We haven't been receivers of treatment, prevention, and other grants related to care, but we are a recipient of the research and development side of USAID, so the non-PEPFAR per se, and this involved a large grant looking to develop an HIV vaccine, which remains a very important, quest for the world.
And that work has been affected, would you say?
Yes, we were terminated 2 days ago in the same way that everybody else has been.
And this is work, Professor Becker, Linda Gale Becker, that I believe has implications for, the global fight against HIV. You're talking about you were working on research towards an HIV vaccine.
Correct. So, it stands to benefit the whole world, and it also, alongside ourselves, includes others who were looking for other prevention innovation. So all of these grants have been stopped. In some cases, people were actually in clinical trials and they've had to decease immediately.
So it's clear that there's not going to be a reversal of course, at least not for the next 4 years. There's been a great deal of debate about the path going forward, what now, and the response on the side of government. Some reporting suggesting that some activists and organizations are critical of our government's, I don't know, what they perceive as a lack of a sense of urgency. On your part, is there a sense of urgency? And if there isn't, what should that look like in crafting a way forward outside of the parameters of US aid and PEPFAR?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conversation to be had about this. I guess on the one hand, although South Africa has made huge strides to become more independent, particularly around the HIV response, the point is we still had this 20% dependency on PEPFAR. We now need to fill that gap, and I absolutely agree. I don't know that we're going to get this from external aid sources, so we're going to have to dig deep within South Africa to say, how do we fill this gap? And of course, this really calls for, I think, collaboration between the Department of Health, the existing implementing partners, and all the NGOs in the country to say, how are we going to fill this gap?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's the vulnerable users and patients in the country who will suffer.
Yeah. How to fill the gap, that seems to be the big conundrum at the moment. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Professor Linda Gale Becker, who is the CEO of the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Coming into Pretoria this morning, there's some quite heavy backlog going on the Mopani Highway. It's really heavy from Theo Mountains down to Westgate and Pathlani. And if you're avoiding that, the M35, the Soutpan Road, that's a heavy backlog into Onderstepoort. You normally get through there unscathed this time of morning, but this morning there's some quite heavy backlogging going on. Breakdown on the N3 near Modderfontein Road, so very heavy up from the Germiston area, and the N1 passing Devlin through Deepcliff Interchange down to Uncle Charlie's is all backed up as well today. Durban, the queue on the N2 south into Spaghetti Junction is the usual broken down vehicle. It's quite amazing how many of those breakdown vehicles end up reporting just being simply out of fuel, running out of fuel and breaking down. And of course they break down in the roadwork zone. So from Inunda Road down through to Spaghetti Junction, it's all pretty heavily backed up. A lot of pressure going into Pinetown. Looks like St John's Avenue Bridge. Traffic lights are still down. There's some very heavy pressure at that bridge both ways in the central Pinetown area. Cape Town crash on the side of the N1 inbound, just causing an extra delay if you're routing in from Belleville. It's heavy from Durban Road all the way passing that scene at Monte Vista and then down to the Kuba. Get a change. Marine Drive is heavy, already queuing up through Bayside down towards Racecourse Road, and a lot of pressure around Strandfontein area this morning. Baden-Powell coming into Strandfontein and Spine Road. I think a lot of that traffic sort of looping around and trying to avoid some really substantial pressure going north out of Mitchell's Plain. So it's a lot of delays through Mitchell's Plain, and then again a big overflow down in that Strandfontein area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
It's time to shine for young athletes across South Africa. From thrilling football and rugby matches to intense netball games. Experience the passion and prowess of Mzansi's finest young sports stars. Super Sports Schools and SABC Plus bring you the specially curated channel dedicated entirely to school and youth sports. Join us as we celebrate their achievements and bring the excitement right to your screens. This is your chance to support the future of South African sports. The Super Sports Schools channel on SABC Plus, where every game is a home game. Don't miss a moment. Download the SABC Plus app today. Available on iOS, Google, and Smart TV. Or visit sabc-plus.com to start streaming. Super Sports Schools on SABC Plus. All the sport you care about most. Now streaming wherever you are.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
As I said, we welcome your contributions on all the topics that we are covering this morning, as well as anything else that may be exercising your mind this morning. So to do that, just send us a WhatsApp message to the number 061-410-4107. In that message, just say, call me, and then tell us what you want to talk about, and we'll call you back. That is our arrangement for this morning. Mandla in Cape Town has done exactly that and joins me now. Mandla, good morning. You want to talk to me about AfriForum?
Yes, right. Yeah. Plus, I fully concur with AfriForum, and I support them 100% on what they were saying. When their lieutenant called Malema was chanting, kill the poor, kill the farmer, dividing the people of South Africa, President Ramaphosa was quiet, was quiet. You never saw him. The Constitution demands it is his duty to unite the nation, President Ramaphosa. But when Malema and Mitama, that boy of the Hopian, Mitama, was dividing the nation, Mitama saying that the Afrikaners are the murderers, they are the rapists. Where was President Ramaphosa to unite the nation?
Okay,
where were
pause.
The ANC leaders to unite the nation? They were nowhere to be found.
Pause there for a moment, Mandla. Let me engage you. What was President Ramaphosa supposed to do in that context, in a context where what is deemed hate speech has got methods and mechanisms through which it can be addressed? There's the Equality Court. There are actually courts where you can go and lay a charge against the person for some of those actions that you mentioned. What was President Ramaphosa and the ANC supposed to do?
We as South Africans that love this country, we phoned, we called SAFM, and we called Malema into order. We said, Malema, what you are doing, you are dividing the nation. The same thing that we expected President Ramaphosa to do, and the ANC leaders, they hide themselves. They were never seen to come and unite the nation.
Okay.
Even if it's perception, even if Malema will say, I didn't mean to kill the farmers, even perception, you must speak against the perception. We need a President Ramaphosa to unite the nation. He was nowhere to be found.
Lastly then, Mandla, my further engagement with you. Let's say President Ramaphosa failed to unite the nation in the way that you allege. Is the remedy to go to the United States as opposed to holding President Ramaphosa accountable here at home through the mechanisms that we have? For goodness sake, vote him out. Vote him and the ANC out if you have to. But is the remedy for a domestic policy issue, a domestic failure, to run to the United States and say, do something, get rid of this ANC, get rid of their policies? Does that make sense? Doesn't to me.
The crooks of the ANC, the party, they've lost elections. They got 40%, but they went to rob the Democratic Alliance. They took the lion's share of the cabinet. Party, why do you do this? You cannot deal with ANC party.
Nah, Mandla, I'm sorry. I can't agree with you.
Didn't they do that?
I can't agree. That was a negotiated settlement. The DA are smart enough. I certainly wouldn't think that the DA would be in a position of the thuggery that you are describing, that they were hoodwinked. They went into this knowing exactly what they were going into. I still strongly maintain that if it's a domestic issue, there are enough mechanisms to deal with it in this country. Let me take a quick WhatsApp voice note about the prices of data, which we are told are coming down.
All right, Melanie, it's Seblela Mtati from Peterson. Now, I see no change on this data fall that I see no change for the past 5 to 6 years. The only thing that I see is that the data don't last these days. You bought the data for 7 days, it will last for 2 days.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, that does talk to the prices of data. I mean, if it's not lasting, it means you're not getting more for the price that you pay. And perhaps even our own activities, because a lot of our activities these days are centered on access to mobile data and connectivity in general. All right, thank you for those. Keep them coming. We'll take a few more throughout the course of the show. But for now, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30760. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, deadline looms for registration of spaza shops and Trump announces Zelensky to sign deal on Ukraine's minerals. Good morning. The Township Economic Commission says owners of food outlets, including tuck shops or spaza shops, who've already started the registration process will not be penalized. There are concerns about the complexity of the registration process. Today is the deadline for the registration of the businesses. President Cyril Ramaphosa had ordered the registration of the businesses in November last year in response to issues of food safety. This followed cases related to food poisoning in which at least 20 children died. The Commission's President Beki Twala says the deadline is reasonable.
People, they need to associate themselves with the like-minded people. They need to go to organizations that are helping in terms of assisting with the process. But obviously, you go to your municipality, you go to the Department of Economic Development, you go to the Environmental Health. They will give you the process. We are not saying we'll penalize people if they've started the process. Yes, some of the documents you might not have now, but the government will assist you to get those documents.
Meanwhile, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velinkosini Hlabisa visited the Tshwane Registration Centre in Pretoria yesterday. He has this message for business owners.
There will be no extension. We are not going to make any recommendation to the President. There was enough time for people to register from the extension made in December.
The Social Security Agency, SASSA, says it plans to put in place measures to deal with the challenges related to the upgrading of grant beneficiaries' cards. Social Development Minister Sisisi Tolashe has criticized SASSA and Postbank for delaying the switching from the SASSA Gold cards to the Postbank Black cards. The new cards have improved security upgrades to curb fraud. South Africa has about 3.5 million grant recipients. SASSA spokesperson Paseka Litsatsi has conceded that there are delays.
We can safely say we had an interaction with the South African Post Bank. We agreed that they were going to open more tellers. We also agreed that we need to make sure that there are people who work with regards to the queue marshalling. Thirdly, they must make sure that they open as many sites as possible, because what we have observed is that some people have complained, in particular the Western Cape, that there were few sites which were opened and they had to travel long distance to be able to do their card swap.
Northern Cape farmers who are keen to enter the cannabis industry have organized a 3-day expo. The aim is to link those who are already in the industry with potential buyers. Farmers who want to grow their businesses say access to land remains a huge challenge. Those who have been farming cannabis for some time say despite some difficulties, they are starting to see rewards. Chantal Steenkamp is one of the farmers.
I'm a cannabis farmer. I've been doing this for a year now. I have 1,000 trees that I'm going to regenerate now. I would like to own my own land one day. I would also like to employ people. Currently, I have 6 employees. I would like to expand on that. And I would also like to expose this to other people as well, so that they can also become business owners or farm owners.
And finally, U.S. President Donald Trump says he and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky will sign a historic agreement at the White House today. Trump says the deal will make the U.S. a major partner in developing Ukraine's minerals, in addition to exploring oil and gas. The meeting will come just more than a week after Trump called Zelensky a dictator. This after the Ukrainian president suggested Trump was living in a disinformation space as it related to which country started the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports.
President Zelensky's visit comes as the Trump administration is pushing to secure a peace deal in the war between Russia and Ukraine, just days after the world marked the third-year anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of its neighbor and 11 years after Russia illegally annexed Crimea from Ukraine in 2014. Zelensky has indicated that he wants security guarantees from the United States and that it was important for Ukraine that support was not stopped under the new U.S. administration. Trump has cast the deal as partly compensation for aid already given by Washington to Kyiv. SABC News understands that key details of the agreement are still under negotiation.
Recapping the top story, the Township Economic Commission says owners of food outlets, including tuck shops or spaza shops, who've already started the registration process will not be penalized. There are concerns about the complexity of the registration process. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
It's the month for secret admirers, but it's no secret that with Outsurance, you could save big on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heavy this morning on the run into Joburg coming from the south. If you're in from Lenasia, Protea, Glen Eldos, is a really big pushback of traffic past Eldorado Park on the N1, so just north of the N12 Potch Highway join, going up through the Golden Highway and down through Deepcliff Interchange. You might want to elect to hit an alternative route there. The N3 Germiston through to Modderfontein is quite heavy. That's pushing traffic on the N12 and R24 routes in from Ekurhuleni back to their respective Edenvale exits, so it's all very slow going through there. Pretoria this morning, crash on Linwood Road at Jacobson Drive, so a bit of extra pressure on your way into Pretoria using that route as well. Durban, the N2 South, starting to move after an earlier breakdown before Spaghetti Junction. Cape Town, Mitchell's Plain and Strandfontein, two very busy areas, a lot of congestion there today. And if you're moving north from the airport, there's been a collision on 35th Avenue at Owen Road in the sort of 8 Sagelsies River area. That's causing a delay coming up from that very busy Stellenbosch arterial Robert Sobukwe 35th Avenue junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. It's soccer. Rushin Dotley says he's ready to go head on with Mamelodi Sundowns' deadly trio. And in golf, Sam Besto, Frederick Fromm and Darren Fickard share the lead from the first round of the South African Open Golf Championship. All the details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 9 minutes after 7 on this Friday. It's good to be in your company. We're into the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Here's what's coming up on the show in this hour. We are due to speak to Kali Kriel, who is the CEO of AfriForum, just reflecting on their recent trip to the United States and the memorandum that they've handed over to the United States, saying that the U.S. government should act against the ANC government but spare the rest of South Africans, particularly from the impact of a removal and an exclusion of South Africa from the United States' Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, AGOA. So we are due to speak to Kali Kriel, battling a little bit to get a hold of him. Hopefully we'll be able to put that conversation together and be able to speak to him. Hopefully he responds and picks up the calls and we are able to take that conversation forward and and hear what exactly their side of the story is. Then we will be speaking to Noncedo Madube of the organization Equal Education, and this has to do with a recent report that has again underscored the literacy crisis that we face in the lower levels of our education system. Statistics revealing there that up to 80% of the country's grade 3 pupils cannot read for meaning. Noncedo Madube will unpack the implications and possible solutions for that situation. And as I said, a bit later on in this hour, at about 10 to 8, we'll be hearing from the Department of Human Settlements in KwaZulu-Natal, who want to respond to what was said by the MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Thulasizwe Simelane, in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, about people being relocated that were affected by floods in 2022, being relocated and settled at a transit camp that was on the banks of a canal that is now also flooded. So the KZN Human Settlements Department wants to put their side of the story on that. Through it all, of course, we welcome your inputs. Primarily this morning, I ask that you send us your WhatsApp voice note. The number for that is 061-410-4107. But also, on that same line, if you want to talk to me directly, you can send a message there and ask us to call you back and briefly tell us what you want to talk about. So also send us a WhatsApp message there on 061-410-4107. We are at SAFM on all of our social media platforms, SAFM Radio on Facebook, and at SAFM on our YouTube channel, where we are streaming live. Not that there's anything exciting to see. It's just me, just me in the studio. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We're in the security industry. Every month we save 1,488 rand with OUTsurance. Just having made the switch from our previous service provider to OUTsurance has allowed us to put another vehicle onto our fleet.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer in FSP. T's and C's online.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices can make our children sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, which could lead to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they age. We must protect them from drinks high in sugar. Demand a stricter health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Let's start this hour with this story. Statistics reveal that 80% of the country's grade 3 pupils cannot read for meaning. This crisis has persisted for years, and experts say a lack of planning and coordination in education is the primary cause of this setback. Experts say that in lieu of a unified national reading plan, the country risks missing its 2030 literacy goals. Let's speak to Noncedo Madube, who is an Equal Education panel member. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So there's this recent 2030 reading panel report that basically talks about the literacy crisis in South Africa. What is your sense, Noncedo? Has there been any progress in terms of addressing the problem of literacy since it was first flagged primarily through the progress in international reading literacy studies a few years ago to where we are with this report? Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let me just do some grounding first, and then I'll answer that question quite directly. The first is that I want to just encourage everyone listening to please follow the Reading Panel 2030. It's a group of people that aren't necessarily education specialists, but are interested in contributing to the country and have their own sort of affluent networks. And so together we meet every year and we convene academics, officials, civil society, business, philanthropy to discuss what next, you know? Full thing to follow in these annual gatherings of February. In this year's 2025's report, we had a special sort of occurrence that at the end of last year, 2 reports that deal with literacy, with learning, literacy and numeracy for learners and teachers. And that's the SACE report, together with the SACMEC report. Now, if you go to the Reading Panel 2030 online on any social media platform, you'll be able to find this report. Please go and have a look. SACE is the South African Systems Evaluation, and then the SACMEC is a monitoring education quality report that focuses on grade 3. Now, what SACMEC does for us is that it says about 20% of grade 3 learners are performing at grade level and or slightly above in their home language. Now, what this does is that it affirms the Pearl study that told us that 81% of children in the 4th grade cannot read for meaning. And the other thing that happens in SACMAC is that they also say to us, by grade 6, that the ability for learners to be proficient in now the language of learning and teaching. Because remember, after grade 4, or at grade 4, learners start acquiring a second and third language. And that could be Afrikaans or English in the South African context. They say there that almost 70% of those learners have not developed the grade level reading skills. Now, that's not rocket science, right? If a learner in the 4th and 3rd grade is finding it difficult, not just to decode words, so reading that word out, but understanding and comprehending how it comes together, form, structure, sentence, paragraph, story. If they're struggling to do that at that grade, then of course at grade 6, they will further be behind. And so then it continues for the rest of their schooling career.
What is missing?
This is part contribution to the fact that the throughput rate says to us that only 53% of children that start grade 1, in fact grade 2, make it to the 12th grade. And so the last thing I must say before I answer the question on what's missing, because there are 2 things that we have said in this report as the Reading Panel. In 2019, there was a paper that estimates that the annual cost of failure, so repetition in the South African education system, is about 20 billion rand. So improving learner performance in the early grades of reading and mathematics will probably minimize both early grade and subsequent failures and repetitions in the system.
What is missing in the equation, Nongato? What is it a matter of insufficient resources such as books, material that would help improve reading in the early grades that's stimulating enough, or is it perhaps the, what do they call it, pedagogy, the difficulties in the methodology and style of teaching?
Those are near right for both of them. So the first is around resourcing, okay? So one of the things that we've been asking the Department of Education at a national level is to please give the country, because this is a crisis, right, a national reading plan. There's a policy in place, but there's no plan on implementing. How do we put together a plan that helps provinces understand what to do in the black boxes, which are the classrooms, at foundation phase and early child learning in particular? Excuse me. What a reading plan will help us do is answer some of those questions. Make sure what are the minimum tools, sets of resources, literature, text, and content that should be inside of the classroom to help learners and teachers teach reading for meaning. That's one of the crises. The other thing inside of that, part B, is that we don't have enough home language content that is distributed through the Department of Education inside those schools, and to support home-based learning too, to help learners build a reading culture as well. That's the one thing, okay? The second, and not to mention the funding crisis of the education system. If the National Treasury continues to cut the education budget, focusing on making sure that the reading plan is resourced in this immediate future, it is going to be detrimental to the education system. The second thing, and you started talking about this around pedagogies, is that we've learned that in the SACMEC, so one of these reports I was talking about, they looked and measured the reading and maths outcomes of teachers in the 6th grade together with learners. And what we found there is that 32% of the teachers reached the highest maths competency levels in the SACMEC evaluation. So we're also finding that, for example, this is just one example using mathematics, that our teachers don't know how to teach children to read.
Sure. Wow. So there's a lot to take in then, and a lot to consider in as far as policy interventions are concerned.
Absolutely. And the last is that in the supply and demand ratio of teachers, we're only producing 20% of the kinds of teachers we need, especially for foundation phase learning. So there's a mismatch between what we are doing and needing. And what we're hoping a reading plan helps us address is exactly that. One of the things we've suggested through this is a review of the B.Ed curriculum across all universities and streamlining that. That process is beginning. We are seeing there's some commitment from the Department of Higher Education to work. An interministerial conversation needs to happen here. To work with the Department of Basic Education to align where and what our teachers are learning so they can go into foundation phase. And then we need a reading plan at a national level to support provinces, and it must be resourced.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and those insights. That's Noncedo Matube, who is the General Secretary of Equal Education. Lots to take in, lots to contemplate and ponder about and reflect about as the government goes into its planning, the medium-term development plan and budgeting and the likes. These are some of the critical conversations that need to inform some of that planning.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, let's turn to the story now. It has to do with this deadline that had been imposed for the SASSA beneficiaries who were on the gold card to move to the Postbank black card. Well, there's some criticism that has come through now. The Social Development Minister, Thulasizwe Simelane, says Postbank has failed to effectively plan for the crisis surrounding the replacement of the SASSA gold cards with Postbank's black cards for social grant beneficiaries. She has also raised concerns about the now March 20 deadline for the transition and saying that it is unlikely to be met. Paseka Letsatsi is the South African Social Security Agency national spokesperson and joins me now for that conversation. It always looked dicey that the deadline for the transition from SASSA gold card to Postbank black card would be met. And now there's a grappling with that reality that it will be difficult even to meet the 20th of March deadline. What went wrong here?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thanks for having me. Obviously, the numbers are too much, Thulasizwe. But secondly, SASSA went through this process, I think in 2012, where you move a huge number of people from one system to another. And we thought we had an experience and we thought we would share it with Postbank to make sure that there are no hurdles. The Postbank started migrating people 6 months ago, but we agreed that we don't want to experience any problems. And we think that we have presented to them and we have agreed with them that they must implement a plan. And it is only that plan which we think it will be able to help them to make sure that they reach as many people as possible.
As stakeholders who are quite involved and interested in this process, did Postbank present to you a plan, a semblance of a plan? And what were the key tenets of that plan from what you can recall?
They did, Thulasizwe, present a plan, and one of the plans which they presented was to make sure that they open as many sites as possible. But secondly, they make sure that they make changing or swapping of the card as less painful as possible. In this instance, when you go and swap your card, you can't find only two people operating. You need to make sure that you know that in this side, on the side, you obviously check the numbers. If you have about 10,000, for an example, in one side, you make sure that you have as many tellers as possible to make sure that they do the card swap. But lastly, Thulasizwe, which is very close to the hearts of SASSA. Remember, these are beneficiaries of SASSA. You need to make sure that they swap the card in more dignified environment. Dignified environment in a sense that you must make sure that you provide ablution facilities. You must make sure that there is water at least, because remember, you're dealing with the frail, you're dealing with disabled people. You need to make sure that you take care of them.
But is it your sense then that despite that plan you just talked about being presented to you at various points, when the rubber hit the road, that plan fell apart?
They have promised us Thulasizwe, that hence the Minister of Social Development, CCC Tola, went to the ground to go and get a first-hand experience if indeed they are rolling out the program. They have indicated to us that the program will be rolled out. We are not going to sit, we have taken a decision that we're not going to sit in the office and get reports. Next week, we are also going to the ground to go and make sure that indeed what was presented to SASSA is being rolled out. From where we are, they are our sister organization, and we think and trust that what they have committed, they will implement. But definitely, Thulasizwe, once we go to the ground next week, I can make an appointment with you to come and give you a feedback if indeed
that would be great.
The commitment is being implemented.
That would be great. But what is your sense now, as you sit now, unless something major and drastic happens, what is your sense about the practicability of meeting this 20 March deadline? Is it achievable?
I'm very much anxious, Thulasizwe, I must confess, but you must not work with your partner and not trust that the partner will be able to implement what they have committed that they will implement. We also said you must always plan for the worst case scenario. In this instance, we said if you can't meet the deadline, what is the contingency plan? They have presented the contingency plan to us, but we don't want to go there to the season. Perhaps towards the end, towards the 20th as they approach, we will then assess if indeed they are able to achieve what they said they will achieve. And if they are not able to do that, then we'll have to make sure that the contingency plan kicks in.
So what are the implications immediately for grant recipients? The run for the month of March, what does that look like? Will people be receiving their grants, and how exactly will they be receiving their grants? Is it dependent on whether or not you hold the gold card or the black card from the Post Bank?
In March, people are going to receive their grant, Thulasizwe. It is only in April where they won't be able to receive their grant if they don't exchange the card, but the money will be in the account. They can only get it at post office. We don't want people to go there. We know what will happen. You'll squash people, there'll be snake queues. But secondly, they have introduced what is called cashless or card cashless withdrawals, something which works like your e-wallet or your cash send. We don't want people to go there. We want people to be able to transact at the time they want to transact. Thulasizwe, you know, if you go to a post office and get all your money, just 10 or 50 steps out of a post bank, people get mugged. We don't want to push people to that level. We think people must get their money in a dignified environment.
You will agree with me, Paseka, as a parting shot, that it doesn't inspire confidence that the agency that will be now central to people's ability to transact with the money that they receive through these grants is battling with the first hurdle, which is getting everyone onto their platform with these cards. It doesn't inspire confidence in the long-term ability to maintain the database, to ensure that, all the systems that people need to be able to transact with these cards will always kick in month after month? Because, you and I agree, this is a lifetime commitment. It's not a commitment of a couple of months and then you can afford to drop the ball.
Thulasizwe, I would be naive to be defensive. And I think I did indicate to you that I'm extremely anxious. But obviously, my anxiety must not cause panic to the public. We need to make sure that we meet on a daily basis with Postbank, and we want Postbank to make sure that they do what is best. And what is best for us is to make sure that all those beneficiaries who are holding the gold card get what is due to them in a dignified way. All
right. Thank you for that. Paseka Letsatsi is the South African Social Security Agency national spokesperson. And I think if you listened carefully there, just really carefully, he says a lot without saying some things quite directly. Read into that conversation what you may. But I do get the sense that Postbank owes the South African public full accountability for this process where things stand. You've heard SASSA's perspective. You've heard the minister's perspective. It's been a while since we heard from Postbank. They did speak to us a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was. I think early next week, we should make an appointment and see if they can come through and give a full account of what on earth is going on with this transition from the SASSA Gold Card to the Postbank Black Card. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines. Some owners of food outlets, including tuck shops and spaza shops, have started to queue to register their businesses at municipal offices in Soweto. Today is the deadline for the registration of the businesses. Cabinet says on the 20th of next month, the Social Security Agency, SASSA's gold cards will stop working. It says the extension of the deadline to switch to Postbank's black cards is final. And AfriForum has hit back at President Cyril Ramaphosa for saying the Afrikaner Interest Group and Trade Union Solidarity were sowing seeds of discord and creating division in the country. This after a delegation of the two groups met with senior U.S. government representatives. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heavy on the run from Pretoria down to Joburg this morning on the N1. It normally is a little bit easier on a Friday, but not today. It's a crash between New Road and Allendale, and it's a heavy queue right back through to Old Joburg Road, and all those ramps from Samran through Olifants down to Allendale trying to get into the highway being held up because of that. Allendale's okay, but Samran, Olifants and New Road are all under a bit of pressure. Joburg Gen 3 North, a breakdown up by Montefontein this morning. Very heavy from Germiston. Heavy enough also to push N12 and R24 routes back towards the respective Edenvale exits as you line up from Ekurhuleni to get through Gillies and into the N3. Gives you an idea of how heavy that is. Durban side this morning, the N2 coming south, that breakdown at Spaghetti Junction's cleared, but there is another one now. It's on the N3 inbound just before Sherwood, so delays coming through from the Paradise Valley Pavilion Mall side as you line up through Spaghetti Junction to that one. Cape Town, the N1 into town, usual backlogs from Plattercliff Road. There's a little bit of an extra slowdown at Parow due to a crash on the side of the highway by Hilberson, and day 2 of major delays going out of Cape Town using the N1. You went through it yesterday, you're going to go through it again this morning. Major delays, about at this stage a 30 to 35 minute wait between the R300 and the Brighton Road exit at Kraaifontein. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you once again. So Mamelodi Sundowns has the attacking trio, triumvirate, trinity of Lucas Ribeiro Costa, Peter Shalulile and Ikram Reyners. But Amakosi have the answer, do they?
Do they?
Uh-huh.
I'm hoping that Chiefs can shut them down.
You're hoping, are you?
Because think about it, Sundowns have 16 goals in their last 5 matches. So
from that trinity trio.
Yeah, imagine.
Triumvirate.
But, you know, we've also had 2 losses, meaning Amakosi this season, 2 Sundowns. Could it be third time the charm for Amakosi? Well, we're going to have to see tomorrow. 3:30, that kickoff. A lot of stake here for Kaizer Chiefs. They're coming up against runaway log leaders and defending Betway Premiership champions Mamelodi Sundowns. This will be their third meeting of the season, and I think Dotley knows the importance of this game tomorrow.
This weekend's game it's very big for the club, for the team, for us as players, for the coaching staff. You know, it's a big game for the club, but also for us as players, you know, on a personal level. Because sometimes you want to win. You want to win the big games, but also you want to win every game you play, if it's possible to do so, fighting in the game. And it's a very important game and big game, and for us our goal is to go out and do our best and to win.
On to rugby, the former England defence coach Felix Jones will become an assistant coach with South Africa from next week. Jones stepped down from his position with England in December after becoming disillusioned in Steve Borthwick's setup. The 37-year-old was part of the Springboks coaching staff during their 2019 and 2023 World Cup victories, working under head coach Rassie Erasmus in the first of those triumphs. On to golf, Sam Bairstow, Frederick Fromm and Darren Fichardt share the lead following the first round of the South African Open Golf Championship, which was suspended due to bad weather in Durban. Bairstow and Fromm took full advantage and opened with rounds of 7 under par 65 to lead. South Africa's Darren Fichardt also on 7 under with 4 holes to play when darkness forced a suspension of play. Now, South Africa's Jaden Shaper, Scotland's Richie Ramsey, India's Shubhankar Sharma, China's Haotong Lee and England's Todd Clements all finished the day on 6 under. Here's South Africa's Jaden Shaper.
Obviously didn't get out on the golf course this week before the tournament started. Walked a couple holes yesterday and just thought to myself, don't know how some of these holes are going to be playable, especially the 16th. But yeah, I mean, to get out there, get off to a good start, keep myself in play and keep hitting some good shots. To be honest, I thought there was going to be another delay. I woke up this morning expecting a message on the phone to see like another hour or 2 hour delay. So yeah, to get the course out there and playable, greens were really pure considering how much rain came down.
And finally, motorsport. Williams, Carlos Sainz fastest from Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton in the second day of F1 pre-season testing, where Lando Norris showed McLaren's real pace. Sainz pipped Hamilton by 0.031 seconds as Williams continued to impress, with Charles Leclerc getting both Ferraris in the top 3 in third, where they were less than 1/10 behind. More sport in the fast lane at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ntauleng Lechela. So Ntauleng, yesterday you gave us those insights around trends and vehicle sales, Europe versus Asia, particularly China. Today we are hearing from the Motors Group about the shifting consumer trends. What are they saying?
So automotive businesses are really feeling the impact of consumers shopping down to less. And during the half-year period, Motors recorded a 2% fall in revenue, but it managed to eke out some bottom-line growth, with earnings growing 3%. Pressures in its top line, interestingly, were partly due to a decline in new vehicle sales. Contributions from that front fell 7%, totaling 1.93 billion rands. This, however, was partially offset by a 5% increase in contributions from pre-owned vehicles, which totaled 629 million rand. So operating in both the new and used vehicle markets has somewhat worked in its favor. Company CEO Okert Janse van Rensburg says the group's overall performance was also hit by margin pressure, strong competition, and reduced demand across both local and international markets. I remember in the last set of numbers, the group did mention that they are thinking of getting a bit more or stocking more of the Asian car makers' vehicles within their brands, as they have a lot of the European vehicles in their brand. So you can see that shift in consumer spend, that shift in what consumers are also buying and liking as well. Now, despite the somewhat downbeat results this time around, the group is optimistic about its prospects. And while Motors managed to post some growth, markets were not entirely impressed with the numbers, with the share price falling 13.9% in yesterday's trading session. Advice Works' Caroline Crimmen, one of the analysts that was unimpressed, she said she expected a better performance, especially from the local market, citing an improved consumer environment environment with lower inflation, lower rates, and contributions from the two-part withdrawal. When you look at numbers from NAMSA, it does seem like that will start coming through down the line because new vehicle sales did increase in December and in January.
So speaking of the improved consumer environment that you just alluded to there, and Dowling, if that is the case, why is Truworths expecting local consumers to remain under pressure?
I think they're just being a bit more cautious, especially when it comes to discretionary spending and when it comes to clothing spending. I don't think it's entirely just on the back of less consumer spending power, but I also think they are struggling with competition, right? So Truworths saying they are less positive, warning of risks that could dampen consumer spending. The group expressed caution about the outlook for consumer spending in South Africa, in particular citing ongoing global economic uncertainty. Truworths says volatility and uncertainty in global economies remain a risk to the stability of the local currency and the local economy, and so it expects spending to remain muted. The group, of course, also highlighting increased competition from online retailers such as Shein and Temu, which sell directly to consumers in SA. And also when you look at Truworths' price point and you look at more quote-unquote affordable clothing retailers in South Africa, something like a Mr. Price, something like a Pepco, they are gaining market share. So it could be also the case of consumers shopping down. Now, Truworths' outlook comes alongside its results, where it reported a 2.4% increase in retail sales. Online sales came in 38% higher. This, of course, from a low base, and they also contributed 5.8% to overall sales, but earnings came in lower, falling 4.6%.
Please give us our second market update for the morning.
So risk is off the table as traders take a wait-and-see approach with Trump on a tariff rampage. With that, we're seeing Asian stocks in the red. The Japanese Nikkei taking the hardest hit on that front, down over 3%. Over in the States, sentiment remains downbeat with futures mixed. That could change as trade jitters make trade choppy. Back at home, the mood sour with markets closing in negative territory yesterday. The all-share losing over 1% in that session. Surprisingly, the rand, however, has remained stable this morning. Amidst all, the jitters we're seeing, amidst all the nervousness we're seeing in markets, it's currently sitting at 18.49 to the greenback.
Is that your puppy excited in the background?
It is.
Dowling Lichela. She'll be back with one more update for you just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Raz Sipomantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So let's start in the DRC. The ICC prosecutor, International Criminal Court prosecutor, has been in the country, has now concluded the visit to the DRC. What are the reflections from the prosecutor?
Refreshing morning to us and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. To us, a very important visit that was done by the ICC prosecutor, Karima Khan. That also he has engaged with the office of the President Felix Tshisekedi. He has visited the survivors and the victims of sexual violence. They have emphasized also working together with the military tribunal in terms of handling all those cases that happen in the Eastern Congo. This meeting is very important, as if when they were even concluding it to us, we saw in the South Kivu yesterday, the M23 rally also, there was an incident that has caused 11 people to lose their lives. Even if he's still investigating, but you still have sporadic violence and attacks in the Eastern DRC. So we don't know how will this investigation go on, because what he has done to us was to reactivate investigations of 2024. At the same time, you have investigations and hearings going on at the African Commission, and we might hear in the few weeks what will be those outcomes. But finally, Tshisekedi promised that they will be having an international conference in April to deal with these issues of justice in the DRC.
Yeah, let's talk about South Sudan. There's a word coming out from the United Nations that talks about the need to hold credible elections in South Sudan. What's that about?
Tulas, the special representative of the Secretary General of South Sudan and the head of the United Nations mission in South Sudan, Nicholas Haysom, had to raise the issue of time is running out to organize the credible elections in the South Sudan. Remember that since 2020, they've been what they call the revitalized transitional government of national unity, which has delayed for the third time in terms of going for the elections. We are likely looking at December 2025, but the UN is flagging it out and it is raising this to the African Union mission also in the South Sudan to say there is a need to push for acceleration, that they need to deal with the issues of security, permanent constitution and electoral state of readiness. Because you don't talk about election when you are about to go to them. You have a cycle of 12 to 24 months to plan them to last. So that's how it is important that the UN has already picked up that as an early warning.
The Gambia wants to prosecute their former president, Yahya Jammeh, but there's a big problem, you tell us this morning, that how to get hold of him.
Tulas, the issue is around extradition, but we know Yahya Jammeh from the Gambia went exile after 2016 Gambian presidential election that were even contested between him and Adam Barrow. Now, what happens here is that ECOWAS wants to bring him home because early this year, Yahya Jammeh wanted to go home, but he still have a hanging matters that were highlighted by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of the Gambia about the role that he has played. But the former president, Alpha Conde, was the main man who took Yahya Jammeh out of the Gambia to Equatorial Guinea. So that's how it is a bit complex how to deal with the former president of the Gambia, as ECOWAS was the one that has to support and assist the government of Gambia to find closure in what has happened in the Gambia during the presidency of Yahya Jammeh. Absolutely.
Hopefully you can come back with an update. I'm asking next week on that particular case. Tell me
that is quite true to us. Quickly, also the case of Charles Taylor. Remember the case of Charles Taylor? It is almost the same. So we have this trend that happens in West Africa or in the Sahel in terms of military rulers who escape after they've committed atrocities in their country, and regional bodies and heads of states, they are also complicit in those missions of taking them out of their own countries.
Yeah. Closer to home, Sipho, tell me about preparations for the burial of the late Sam Nujoma. Among the people that will be attending, you're telling us, is the Zimbabwean president and current SADC chairman, Emmerson Mnangagwa.
Dambuzo Mnangagwa will be landing to us in Windhoek today to attend the memorial service also that will be held, but also to pay his last respect as the chairperson of SADC. This is very important that today at the Independence Stadium, that's where they'll be having the memorial service, where many heads of state will be flying in. But Emmerson Mnangagwa will be underscoring the strong bilateral and historic ties between Zimbabwe and Namibia. Hence the visit of Emmerson Mnangagwa, it will be very important representing the SADC region. And like I have said, many former heads of states and current sitting heads of states will be in Namibia from today for the funeral of Samuel Shafishunai Daniel Nujoma.
And lastly, Sipho, you take us to your historical archives. You're going back to the 1st of March, 1896. It's a glorious moment, isn't it?
It's a glorious moment in the African continent. 129 years ago, an African state and army defeated the European, Italian, through the leadership of Emperor Menelik. A very important day to us when you look at what we'll call the military science of those days. An African power defeating one of the European best armies in the 19th century. And that's how it is important when you look at the Battle of Adowa. There are many activities that have happened. You'll recall former President Thabo Mbeki to do that lecture. Rastafarians observed to us that day of the Battle of Adowa by raising their human rights struggles and plight. Hence, we have this Human Rights Month coming, or the Shavilanga Massacre Month coming tomorrow also, as we are introducing the important month in our calendar to look at our human rights and responsibilities. I think I have to push that stress to us that it's not human rights only, but they include responsibilities. Asante sana Thulas, as we are still leading the conversation, SAFM observing the Black History Month.
All right, Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update here on the Morning Brief.
Hey neighbor, what happened to you last night? We were vibing, watching the game, and then our team scored, and the next thing you were gone.
Skis, I missed the goal. You know, just before our team scored, Eskom came and then our electricity was disconnected.
Yo, so much drama. What happened?
We got a fine for buying electricity tokens from an illegal vendor.
And then your fancy orange jumpsuit?
Oh, just in case I get arrested for not paying the fine, Pela.
Ungathatha chance. Buy your electricity legally. Stop buying electricity from illegal vendors and tampering with electricity meters. In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust Outsurance.
I'm in tourism. I'm running a guest house here. When I switched over to Outsurance, it was very simple and convenient. I used the savings to subsidize my solar installations. Switching to Outsurance was one of the best decisions I made insurance-wise, yes.
For your business insurance, contact Outsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer in FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Crash on the N3 North at Linksfield Road. All that traffic was badly backed up from Germiston. Stays heavily backed up, and the queues on the N12 and R24. It's in from Ekurhuleni to get through Galulis and into that N3 North queue. Remain heavily backed as well. Earlier crash, N1 South at New Road to Allendale. That's being cleared. The N1 South is fairly busy as it normally is, but the collision scene out of the way. Durban, a breakdown at Sherwood on the N3. That stays slow coming through from the Pavilion Mall area, and Cape Town chaos around Monadam. One set of traffic lights out, Robert Sebukwe and Delaray, and it's really heavily clogged up. And if you're heading out of Cape Town, give yourself 40 minutes to get through from Belleville to Kraaifontein on the N1 outbound. Otherwise, give it a miss and take alternative routes. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Hey neighbor, what happened to you last night? We were vibing, watching the game, and then our team scored, and the next thing you were gone.
Skis, I missed the goal. You know, just before our team scored, Eskom came and then our electricity was disconnected.
Yo, so much drama. What happened?
We got a fine for buying electricity tokens from an illegal vendor.
And then your fancy orange jumpsuit?
Oh, just in case I get arrested for not paying the fine, Pela.
Ungathatha chance. Buy your electricity legally. Stop buying electricity from illegal vendors and tampering with electricity meters.
And then, how? SK, where are you going with that stuff?
My dog. I'm going whale watching. New hobby, you see. Finally going out to explore the world. Giri levels, Dwana.
I see the life jacket, but I don't know how an inflatable boat, megaphone, and a fishing rod fits into all of this.
How else am I going to get to the whales, bongs? I need the boat. The megaphone is to do my whale calls, and the fishing rod, it's called ambiance. Ambiance. If you don't get it, forget about it.
Okay, but SK, you know there aren't any whales here in Germiston Lake.
Ooh, Shem, Mr. Know-it-all. Whales live in the water, and Germiston Lake has water.
Hi, sure, Ntwana, go whale watching in Germiston Lake. Me! I'll tune into Whale with Steve Buckshall, Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, I must say, we have that special arrangement for this morning. You send us a WhatsApp and ask us to call you back, and you give us, of course, we'll have your number and be able to call you back just for this morning. The WhatsApp number is 061 410 4107, but also you can send your voice notes to that number. Let's take a call from Bongani in Johannesburg. Good morning to you, Bongani. By the way, I must say, before you say what you're going to say, Bongani, on AfriForum, we were scheduled to speak to Kali Krill of AfriForum. We had an appointment scheduled. We were meant to speak to him just after 7 a.m., but we have tried and tried and tried. We simply cannot get a hold of the AfriForum CEO. But go ahead. What do you want to say about AfriForum?
Thanks, Thulas. So if you get lucky and speak to him, please just put this point across. Mm-hmm. He mentions that what AfriForum is doing now is what ANC used to do to the previous apartheid government. But is he willing to suffer the same consequences? Because what ANC did then
They paid with their lives. They were thrown into jail for treason. They were assassinated. They were targeted by government. This is not the case now.
Yeah.
Is he willing to suffer the same consequences if he equates this democratically elected government to the apartheid government?
Yeah, gotcha.
You understand? So this is treasonous. And he must also be ready to face the consequences.
All right. Bongani, thank you for that.
All right.
Thank you for raising that. That's Bongani in Joburg. Let me take a quick WhatsApp voice note on the same issue of AfriForum. Okay.
Morning, Mr. Thulas and the SFM listeners. It's Unati here. There is no way that in the African continent, what Solidarity and AfriForum are doing would have been allowed. South Africa is wired differently. It is why, people take chances and do as they please, because we are wired differently. But in the continent, it would have been a different story. And I think we should start appreciating South Africa.
Yeah. No, hopefully if we take out anything from this, it should be that sense of a shared destiny. No one says we will always agree, guys. I mean, come on. No one says we will always agree, but the fundamentals, this is our country. We don't have a plan B. Most of us, at least, don't have a special offer from POTUS 47 to migrate, etc., etc. Most of us are invested here. And really, we don't have any option. We have to resolve our differences through the mechanisms that we have agreed to as a country.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So over 1,000 families, we are told, that were displaced in the aftermath of the devastating 2022 floods in KwaZulu-Natal are still waiting for permanent housing solutions. Reports say that efforts to provide these families with homes have faced significant delays, largely due to opposition from local communities, especially in Shawcross in Chatsworth. We'll get to that conversation in a moment, but I want to start my conversation with Ndabenhle Sibiya, the spokesperson of the for the MEC for the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Transport and Human Settlements, by asking Ndabenhle. Good morning to you, Ndabenhle. The first question that I want to talk to. Yesterday we had a conversation with the MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Thulasizwe Simelane. Among the issues that he spoke about was the issue of people who were affected by the floods in 2022 being relocated to an area that's on the banks of a canal, and that has now flooded itself. And basically he was saying that should have been anticipated, but it wasn't. I believe you want to respond to that aspect. What's your response?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, let me indicate that the visit by the MEC COCTA, MEC for Transport and Human Settlements, sponsored Duma, the Mayor of eThekwini, Cyril Kaba, together with ESCO, it really assisted in terms of indicating to the people of KwaZulu-Natal and to the affected families that there's no challenge that is above the collective wisdom. The three leaders spoke with one voice in saying, look, there needs to be an intervention to assist the affected families. With regards to those families that have been affected, we can confirm that, the MEC sponsored has been interacting with the National Minister of Human Settlements, Thembi Simelane, and we can report that about 41 families have been, relocated to an emergency accommodation. There are hotels that have been identified where the families have been relocated. That's number one. Then number two, the issue that you raised is very correct, that, the MEC sponsored convened a press briefing a couple of days ago where he introduced the new head of the Department of Human Settlements, Maxine Bailey. In that press briefing, he spoke eloquently about what he calls the reintroduction of the Group Areas Act, and he offered to name and shame the individuals as well as certain political leaders who are mobilizing communities to resist the relocation of those that were affected in 2022 to Shawcross. Then we'll come to that issue. Coming back to the issue that you are raising, It is true that in 2022, families were, relocated to various places in KwaZulu-Natal, including Lamontville, and I think at that time, very important to indicate that nobody imagined that there will be such, a prolonged rainfall caused by what we call a cut-off low, a low pressure system that gets separated from the main airflow. So this is a natural disaster that nobody can really predict that it will happen. And if you look at where we're coming from, 1905, we experienced a cut-off low that resulted in a dumping of rainfall of above 600 millimeters. Then you look at what we experienced over the couple of days, 184 millimeters of rainfall dumped as a result of a cut-off flow pressure system. Just to give you a summary.
Is it a fact that people were relocated to the banks of a canal? And if that is a fact, I would say to you, it was reasonably foreseeable that that area could actually flood. I don't buy the story that says no one could have foreseen that. You relocate people to the banks of a canal. What do you expect?
No, it wasn't really, at the banks of a canal. I think we need to clarify that there's a piece of land that is adjacent to the freeway there. That is the land that was available at that time. And remember, we were experiencing a cut-off flow in 2022 that was dumping a lot of rainfall of above 700 millimeters of water, and there was no other land available to relocate the families. So the three leaders spoke with one voice in saying, look, we need to adapt. What you call the climate change, is really having a negative impact. We've got families that are living in river lines. We've got families that are living in river banks. In floodplains as well as river banks, purely because there is no land that is available in various parts of Ethekwini municipality. That is why what we are doing now, based on what His Majesty said yesterday, MEC Duma has welcomed the speech delivered by His Majesty, in which, wherein he indicated that there's going to be a climate change summit involving all spheres of government, but in the main, traditional leaders, and he said traditional leaders are going to be at the forefront in terms of ensuring that people are not allocated land that is in the floodplain as well as in river banks.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Ndabezinhle Sibiya, who is the spokesperson for the MEC for Transport and Human Settlements in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news.
In our top stories, business owners rush to beat Spaza shop registration deadline and an urgent appeal for DRC funding launched. Good morning. Some owners of food outlets, including tuck shops and spaza shops, have started to queue to register their businesses at the Civic Centre in Soweto. Today is the deadline for the registration of the businesses. President Cyril Ramaphosa had ordered the registration of the businesses in November last year in response to issues of food safety. This followed cases related to food poisoning in which at least 20 children died. Our reporter Thulasizwe Simelane is in Soweto.
We are also expecting to be speaking to them just to check how are they feeling, just to check their reaction on the last day of the registrations today. We know that the deadline was open for only 21 days last year until it was extended to today, and we understand that over 21,000 spaza shops have applied to register.
Meanwhile, the Township Economic Commission says owners of food outlets, including tuck shops or spaza shops who have already started the registration process, will not be penalized. There are concerns about the complexity of the registration process. The Commission's President, Beki Twala, says the deadline is reasonable.
People, they need to associate themselves with the like-minded people. They need to go to organizations that are helping in terms of assisting with the process. But obviously, you go to your municipality, you go to the Department of Economic Development, you go to the Environmental Health. They'll give you the process. We are not saying we'll penalize people if they've started the process. Yes, some of the documents you might not have now, but the government will assist you to get those documents.
Cabinet says on the 20th of next month, the Social Security Agency, SASSA's gold cards will stop working. It says the extended deadline for the replacement of the existing gold cards is final. The gold cards will be replaced by the black cards belonging to Postbank. Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshabeni, has urged SASSA beneficiaries to make sure their cards are changed before the deadline. Recently, both SASSA and the Postbank came under fire from MPs who expressed dissatisfaction with delays in the switch. Ntshabeni addressed the media in Cape Town yesterday.
Cabinet reminds beneficiaries that the old SASSA Gold Card will stop working on the 20th of March 2025, and beneficiaries who have not exchanged their cards by then will need to visit their nearest post office branch to access their funds.
AfriForum has hit back at President Cyril Ramaphosa for saying the Afrikaner Interest Group and trade union Solidarity were sowing seeds of discord and creating divisions in the country. This after a delegation of the two groups met with senior U.S. government representatives. The groups claim the expropriation bill recently signed into law seeks to forcefully take land from white owners. This has sparked the U.S. government's criticism of South Africa. AfriForum CEO Kali Kriel.
It's President Ramaphosa that signed the Expropriation Act. It's President Ramaphosa that refuses to condemn slogans such as Kill the Boer. It's President Ramaphosa that denies the existence of farm murders. We will not be deterred. We will continue to fight for what is in the interest of South Africa and its people. We will also continue to unashamedly fight for a place under the sun for Afrikaners on the southern tip of Africa.
And finally, the United Nations and the Democratic Republic of Congo have appealed for $2.5 billion or more than 50 billion rand. The funds are for addressing humanitarian needs in the DRC, where conflict epidemics and natural disasters have affected 20 million people. Late last month, 14 South African soldiers were killed in fighting between the M23 rebels and the Congolese military in eastern DRC. The BBC's Ian Williams reports.
The United Nations said its funding appeal will be crucial to providing assistance to those in the greatest need in the DRC. Nearly 8 million people are internally displaced. In the east, the M23 rebel group has seized swathes of territory in recent weeks, complicating humanitarian access. But reaching the $2.5 billion goal will be difficult, especially with President Trump's slashing of nearly all U.S. foreign aid. Last year, the United States provided 70% of the UN's humanitarian funding for DRC.
Recapping the top stories, some owners of food outlets, including tuck shops and spaza shops, have started to queue to register their businesses at the Civic Centre in Soweto. Today is the deadline for the registration of the businesses. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just check on the N3 in Joburg. It's been a bit of a car park this morning, and it still is. Crash up at the Linksfield Road exit a little bit early is being cleared, but there is an obstruction that's been lingering around Modderfontein. So from the cement factory up through Galulis to Edenvale, very heavy. N12 and R24, it's absolutely jam-packed coming in from the Ekurhuleni side as well. If you're leaving Tembisa, factor in some queues across the Midrand, some big traffic on Allendale towards Mastiff Road this morning. Durban side, if you're running into Spaghetti Junction southbound, that's all cleared. There is a breakdown at Sherwood. That traffic that was coming in from Pavilion Mall has sort of moved on. There's just a little bit of a slowdown through Spaghetti Junction to that. And just an update for motorists driving out of Cape Town. Average speed and queue time on the N1 between Brackenfell and Brighton Road at Kryfontein. Well, the average speed, 8 kilometres now. Current queue time, 42 minutes. Again, if you're heading out of town towards Stellenbosch, Justenburg or Paarl, select a route alternative to the N1. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. We're building up to the blockbuster clash between Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns, with the Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso having nothing but praise for Chiefs Nasruddin Nabi ahead of the game. And there's also big rugby action over the weekend. The Lions are awaiting a shark attack. All this and more at around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 9 minutes after 8 on this Friday. Good morning. It's good to be in your company. We are into the third hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. So we've just had quite a number of conversational streams that have been flowing in the last 2 hours. Among the key conversations we've been having is reflecting on AfriForum and Solidarity's recent trip to the United States, where, I don't know about you, but I honestly did not expect that there would be a tempering of their messaging around their disgruntlement with certain policies in this country. I did not have that expectation. You may have, so you can reflect on that and share your reflections with me. It's a pity that we're doing these reflections, of course, without the involvement of AfriForum, and that's because we had a scheduled interview with the CEO, Kali Kriel, and that was meant to happen just after 7 a.m., but we called and simply could not get through. But the conversation continues nonetheless. I mean, I was listening to the news bulletin there where Kali Kriel makes the point and argument that President Ramaphosa denies the existence of farm murders. I had to ask myself, hang on, do all farm murders of farmers, black and white, whatever language they speak, do those, as well as the killings of other people on farms, people that work on farms, the kind of incidents that get reported from time to time, do those not reflect in the official crime statistics of South Africa? Is that not an acknowledgement? Was there no category that was specifically carved out in the crime stats to reflect that element, acknowledging that it is an element that deserves to be reported upon in as far as the crime picture is concerned? So those are all the issues we would have raised with AfriForum, but we've not been able to get a hold of them. But nevertheless, do take part in that conversation. And the arrangement we have this morning, send us a WhatsApp message asking us to call you back. Send that WhatsApp message to 061 410 4107. Also there, send your WhatsApp voice notes. I want to take as many of them as possible. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
So let's start with a call from Mfundo in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Mfundo. You want to talk to me about AfriForum this morning?
Yes, Thulasizwe. Good morning, Thulasizwe.
Good morning.
SAFM listeners. First of all, it is devastating what is AfriForum doing. Not only devastating, I so wish that the creators of this world know that they are having the potential of triggering a civil war, because some of us that didn't benefit like they did on the apartheid government, they feel offended with what they're doing. First, they are spreading lies, and it is a shame that the Trump government will listen and pay attention to what is being said by the minority of this country. With all due respect, they are undermining Cyril Ramaphosa. They are undermining the democracy of this country, because in all fairness, they should be listening to the statesmen. We have dedicated the AfriForum to USA. No one. They were not sent there by the government. They went there on their own. Now, a head of state listening to someone who hasn't been summoned by the state government. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to Trump. It's a disgrace to AfriForum. And I'm telling you now, to us who didn't benefit to the apartheid government, they are triggering a civil war.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Mfundo. Hopefully it doesn't come to a civil war. And in fact, I'm quite confident that it won't have to come to that, because the critical mass of South Africans, including, and I have to emphasize this, including Afrikaners in this country, do not buy into the ideology of AfriForum as well as what they are championing. I mean, just a short while ago, I had one message that came from one of our listeners. I'm not able to actually go to it at the moment, but it did say very early on that I'm an Afrikaner, but AfriForum does not speak for me. They speak for a racist minority. You have a lot of that sentiment. So I believe that if the critical mass of South Africans believe that we have the wherewithal internally, domestically, to resolve our problems, we should be just fine and won't have to get to the point of civil war. Let me take one or two of your voice notes this morning. Many of them obviously have to do with the sentiments of AfriForum and their recent escapades in Washington, including meeting with members of the Trump administration at the White House. Let's hear what you've had to say.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and SAFM listeners. Mr. Ndabe is giving us a lecture on climate change. What we want is the answer why people were put on harm's way. Begani, thank you.
Thulasizwe, I had your conversation with the person or the equal education. I think everything is being blamed to the government. Your person didn't say anything about parenting. Anything. For example, kids have parents. If a parent dies, it affects their education. If parents divorce, it affects their education.
Thulasizwe, good morning, you and your listeners. It's Mpendu here in Ntombe. There are no post offices in King Williamstown. The one burnt, the other one closed. And we are surrounded by many villages, and the villagers are struggling. So what are these guys doing about this post bank issue?
Good morning, Thulas and SAFM listeners. Thulas, it's a pity with the data thing that if you buy different data for different things, like, for instance, for the WhatsApp, they run parallel. There isn't anything on the phones that to say when you are on WhatsApp, you can only open the WhatsApp data. I think that's where the biggest problem is. Thanks, it's Lucy in Gauteng.
Yeah, Lucy, thank you for that. Thank you for all of those conversations. I mean, I kept trying to butt in, but, it's that kind of a morning. But, thank you for those, quite a number of issues covered there. Lucy, on the issue of data, I take the point that you are making, that there should be, categorization of this data you bought specifically as a bundle to deal with WhatsApp, to deal with social media, and this data is for other connectivity. And I think that would make a difference, and I suppose that can be looked into, and that talks to the conversation we will be having in the next few minutes with my next guest about the prices of data said to have come down but still high by the standard. And then there was the conversation around what Ndabe Zintlesbia was saying about the impacts of climate change. And I take the point, but I think what I took out from there was that there was the only land that was available, and he denied that people were moved to an area that is adjacent to a canal without anticipating that flooding was always going to happen into the future. Let me take a call from Mike in Newlands. Good morning to you, Mike. You also want to talk about AfriForum this morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I do indeed. I don't agree with everything AfriForum does, and I certainly agree with you in terms of the land and the farm murders. I don't buy into that at all. But I do certainly support AfriForum 100% here. I was one of the people that signed the petition of 900,000 people that would have voted against expropriation without compensation. I know that AfriForum on many times tried to get through to the president and his office, and not once did they get the courtesy of a reply. I also happen to know that Ramaphosa just insulted America again in an op-ed piece he wrote, which I read last night, where he criticized Israel and accused America of all sorts of things. He's also, let's not forget, our president has also supported Russia in the invasion of Ukraine. We support all of America's enemies like Iraq and Iran. And in fact, we actually went to took Israel to court with $1 billion. And I'm asking myself, I know Trump's sitting there thinking, well, hang on a second. If South Africa's got $1 billion spare to take Israel to court and the war's got nothing to do with it, surely they do not need our money. Because PEPFAR was a presidency program by the generosity of the people of America, which is now being taken away. And I don't blame America one bit at all. And I think that the deaths that are going to occur must be laid firmly and squarely at the door of the ANC. They have been warned, and our president must not come and tell us we must sort our problems out in our own country when he ignores the problems right here in our own country and pretends that they don't exist.
Two things, Mike. I hear what you're saying. What the U.S. does is what the U.S. does. That's their policy, foreign policy towards South Africa, right? That's their problem. But would you say the issues you are raising, all of these issues, President Ramaphosa's signing of the Bella Act and expropriation, you call it expropriation without compensation, I call it the Expropriation Act, broadly to do with various things, because the EWC that you talk about did not succeed in one of the institutions that we have in this country, Parliament. It simply did not succeed as a proposal. All of those issues, would you agree with me that those are domestic policy issues?
Look, they certainly, excuse me, Thulasizwe, are domestic policy issues. But the fact of the matter is they are not being signed. They are signed in the background in the middle of the night. Take EWC.
Sure.
That was signed without even consulting with the opposition.
I do need to move on.
Final.
Yeah. No. Sorry, Mike. I'm trying to get us to move. I'm trying to get us to move a bit rapidly because you've made your point. So, if there are domestic policy issues, as you agree with me, what makes the United States the arbiter of domestic issues in South Africa? Is that acceptable to you in any shape or form at all?
America doesn't worry about what we're doing. They're simply saying, we're not going to give you $8 billion anymore because you are now making friends with our enemies. So we're taking our money away. That's all they're doing.
Yes, that's their foreign policy towards us. But I'm saying, what makes it right for an organization like AfriForum to bypass? You could go, let me give you the arbiters. Public protector, if you have any issues in this country, go to the High Court, go to any of the courts, Supreme Court of Appeal, Constitutional Court. Hell, if you fail at all of these levels, go as high as the African Court on Human and People's Rights, make it an international issue at that level. But to simply bypass all of these issues and go to the United States just doesn't make sense to me.
Makes absolute sense to me. And one final point, I'll tell you why. Because we've signed an expropriation without compensation. Whether you like it or not, and whether you say the government is friendly and only doing in extreme circumstances. The question was asked in an American talk show the other day. What happens if the EFF and the MK party get in? They've publicly declared that no private property will exist in South Africa. They will take that law in the public interest, and that will be the end of our private property and the end of South Africa.
Gotcha, Mike, but the EFF is not in government, especially in the current guise of the Government of National Unity. Let me listen to some of your voice notes now.
Morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners. This act of AfriForum is treasonous.
Morning, Spumbelele Ntamu and Peter Marisbeck. You know, AfriForum is in an unfortunate position. They walked into a trap they set themselves. Trump was going to pull funding anyways. Trump was going to remove South Africa from AGOA, but he just didn't have a reason. And these guys, they just walked into it and gave Trump a very good reason to just pull the funding. So Trump is going to use them. And now we are all going to blame them, rightfully so. Man.
Hey, morning Thulasizwe. Hey, that guy, you just raised my high blood pressure. That guy who's saying he's supporting the AfriForum and the DA who was hoodwinked. President didn't intervene in the issue of Malema. That guy's mentality, man, still needs to be emancipated. He's highly irrelevant. He's off the mark, that guy. He's a fool.
Well, I don't know about calling him a fool, but yeah, look, it was one of those views that were expressed this morning. Let me take one more and then I'll respond.
It was to the Cape Town on this issue of AfriForum. You know that they forget that Trump is only there for 4 years. And they can continue sowing these divisions and everything else, but the resentment that's going to come after this history will judge them very harsh. I'm not sure that they think beyond that. They must be very small-minded. Thank you.
No, thank you for those. Just on the issue of the calls for AfriForum to be charged with treason, of course, there was the case that was laid by the MK party. The difficulty with treason and other crimes is that they are technically defined. It is a common law crime in South Africa, but, you've got the elements that have to tick, the boxes that have to tick for it to become high treason. And I wonder in those investigations that are taking place whether they will find that, as objectionable as some of the actions may be, do they tick the boxes for them to constitute the crime of treason? I'm responding to one of the callers in the voice notes who was saying that what they are doing is treasonous, and it resonates with what a number of people have been saying, calling it treason. George in Gqeberha, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about military veterans?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the military veterans, the old non-statutory statutory forces.
Sure.
Yeah, they were promised about the military pension, which was signed in 2011 by the president. Till today, there's not one that isn't got that money. I just want to know maybe a feedback what is going on with that, because I'm just in the wilderness right now.
Okay.
I've been applying, phoning those people every day, saying that phone next week. Since then, there's not one that got that money.
Yeah. All right, George, thank you for raising that. I can't give you an intelligent answer. I don't know what the programs are around what you are saying, but you've given us a great idea. We'll pick it up and run with it next week and see if we can get someone from the department to actually explain how far we are with some of those promises that you're saying were made as early as 2011. That's George in Gqeberha there.
Morning, Thulas. I don't know if I'm the one who's reading this whole Donald Trump issue wrong, or maybe perhaps there's something that I don't understand. But I don't understand the fuss or the noise against the AfriForum and their action to take on ANC using whatever means that they have, which in this case is the US. Everybody's acting as if like the AfriForum is acting out of I don't know what. But in their position, I don't see how we would deal differently with what the ANC is doing. I mean, number one, we all know that whatever policies that they are trying to change will definitely benefit them and their power-hungry leaders. That's number one. Number two, we all know that as a country, we need to stand on our own. We cannot be blaming people for the US that is now punishing us.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you that when another country doesn't like the policies we are taking, they are at large to take whatever position that becomes their foreign policy towards South Africa. That's fair and fine. And I think many of the actions we undertook as South Africa in the recent past, we were always aware and alive to that, they may be interpreted one way or another by countries that are looking at us at a geopolitical level. I don't agree with you, though, that we would do the same if we were in AfriForum's position. There are many South Africans who don't agree with the policies and actions of our government, and they deal with them differently. In fact, for goodness sake, I mean, the AfriForum and Solidarity have the budget and the resources to even form a political party and fund it heavily to be able to champion their cause. That's what we agreed is the framework. If you don't like policies, you vote people out, you take people to court, and you take them to public protector, etc., etc. And I think I've said enough about that for this morning. Thank you for those. We will come back to them a bit later on in the show.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So let's talk that issue of data now, data prices. According to recent statistics, the price of mobile data has seen a significant reduction over recent years, with the cost of 1 gigabyte of data plummeting, we are told, by about 67% between 2019 and 2023. But are you feeling it? Let's speak to Jan Vermeulen, who is the editor of My Broadband. Good morning to you, Jan. So there was that movement, #DataMustFall, and there were those interventions. I think it was the Competition Commission at some point. Has it led to a decline in the prices, the average prices for data?
Good morning. Yeah, it absolutely has. And there's even a problem with these kinds of international studies when they look at data prices. I don't know if it's specific to South Africa, but it definitely happens when you compare South African prices. If you just look at the sticker price, that doesn't actually tell the whole story. Because as many people on prepaid will tell you, when you're on Vodacom or MTN or Telkom or Cell C prepaid, you often get pushed these specials that offer you services at a much cheaper price than the listed sticker price of data or voice minutes or SMSs, whatever you're buying. And so the average price of data is much less than even the regular sticker price that you'll see on the company websites. So yeah, the price of data has definitely come down. And I think to speak to your point earlier about why people might not be feeling it is because we also use, as the price comes down, people just use more.
Sure. So tell me about where we land in the pecking order around affordability of data then, compared to where we were in 2019 thereabouts, where I'm told the average cost for a gigabyte back then was about the equivalent of $7.19. And now, according to your work and your research, we're now somewhere, about $1.81 in 2023?
Yeah, so something to take into account there is also that the rand has weakened significantly against the dollar, so that's had an outsized impact on the dollar-denominated prices. But even if you look at it in rand terms, and you look at the rand price in 2019 and the rand price today, it's come down tremendously. And so, where we sit in the pecking order hasn't shifted much, because remember, as prices come down in South Africa, the whole world's prices change as well. And so for us, we're dead average. It's disappointing. You obviously want to be the best in the world. Also, I think people who want to scream about it want to say we're the worst in the world. Yeah. But we're just average. We are the most mundane average in the world when it comes to data prices.
Lastly, Jan, just as we seek solutions, are we seeing solutions coming on stream fast enough around fiber to the home and the likes, including that conversation about Starlink and the difficulties of entering to the market?
You've opened up a hornet's nest. I'm desperately frustrated with our government at the moment. There's so much that they could be doing to remove the friction of doing business in this country in general, let alone the rubbish regulations in the telecommunications sector that's holding us back. And then on top of it, we had a situation where Vodacom wanted to invest. Something that people forget, Vodacom is a multinational, right? They operate all over the continent, and they're 60% owned by Vodafone UK. Now, what Vodacom wanted to do was invest in Vumatel here in South Africa, take a 30%, 40% stake in Vumatel's parent company, and invest in fiber. And Vumatel's current big project is rolling out fiber to Alexandra. And instead of finding a way to make that deal work, the Competition Tribunal shot it down. And now the tribunal is dragging its feet in releasing the reasons document so that the companies can appeal the decision. And on top of that, Parks Tau, even our Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, has said he's going to climb in and appeal this thing. And now the Competition Tribunal is dragging its feet in releasing the reasons document so that this can proceed. And so, no, to answer your question, not enough is being done. To make sure that telecommunications is as cheap as possible. And I'm laying the blame of that squarely at the feet of government now. I'm sick and tired of this.
All right, Jan, thank you. Strong points there being made by Jan Vermeulen, who is the editor of My Broadband. Let's touch base now with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Township Economic Commission says the registration deadline will not affect people intending to open new food outlets, including tuck shops or spaza shops. Today is the deadline for the registration of the businesses. Cabinet says on the 20th of next month, the Social Security Agency's gold cards will stop working. It says the extended deadline for the replacement of the existing gold cards is final. The gold cards will be replaced by the black cards belonging to Postbank. And US President Donald Trump and the British Prime Minister have met at the White House for discussions, including the future of the war in Ukraine. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The heaviest delay across the country this morning has been by some distance Joburg Gen 3 North, and it stays that way. It's a breakdown up at Modderfontein Road at Edenvale. It's causing a really big pushback to a cement factory, and behind that the M12 at R24 is coming in from Ekurhuleni, very heavy, coming through their Edenvale exits down into Galilees to try and hook into that N3 North. Alternative routes are open and flowing, so get onto those and avoid the highways. Allendale Road leaving Tembisa, expect a big queue as you make your way across to the Midrand area this morning. Durban traffic easing up pretty nicely for a Friday. All the breakdowns around Spaghetti Junction are long clear, and the backlogs all work through there. Peter Maritzburg down to Durban looks fine as well. Cape Town crash, N7 North before Plattercliff Road, so some queuing pressure into that one. A pedestrian down on your way to the airport on the N2, just before the airport exit, so there's quite a big backlog of traffic building back towards the N7 off-ramp. And a reminder, avoid the N1 if you're leaving Cape Town heading to Stellenbosch, Shaw Powell direction. 40 to 45 minute delays from the R300 out towards that Brighton Road exit. Just get onto some alternative routes and get through the region quicker. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, I think I've seen this movie before. One coach heaping praise on another, paying compliments, and so, oh, he's a great coach, great team, just before the slap comes down. Tell me about Miguel Cardoso and what he's been saying about Nasruddin Nabi and Kaizer Chiefs.
I know, that coach is talking, and I don't know if he wants Chiefs to walk that talk, but I don't know. Tulas, come tomorrow, we'll know. It's a big one. The stage is set. Yes, it's going to unveil itself like a movie, a blockbuster, in fact. Kaizer Chiefs playing Mamelodi Sundowns, and Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso praising the Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi, saying he's definitely building something special at Naturina. Sundowns, we know, have been ruthless in front of goal, while Chiefs have struggled with consistency. That match kicks off at 3:30. On to rugby, the Lions are gearing up for a fierce battle at Ellis Park. They take on the informed Sharks in the United Rugby Championship. That's tomorrow. Lions centre Marius Lowe, a former Shark, has emphasized the importance of controlling the tempo against his old team, who have showcased a dynamic style of play this season. Now, the Sharks, they stunned the Bulls at Loftus 2 weeks ago and have proven to be highly effective in aerial duels as well as counterattacks. Meanwhile, the Lions are still smarting from their defeat last week and are looking for a strong start to keep their playoff ambitions alive. Cricket, Marnus Labuschagne wants to silence the crowd when Australia takes on Afghanistan in a Crunch Champions Trophy contest. Australia and Afghanistan head into today's clash in Lahore, knowing a win will be enough to guarantee their spot in the semi-finals. After beating England but seeing their second game against South Africa rained off, Australia are second in Group B. Let's hear from Marnus Labuschagne.
I think if we're batting, we'll be looking to combat their spin through the middle, which has been, their really strong point. Their pace bowling has been very good in the last few games. We saw that they've got batters. I think last time their top order, they got 300, and Maxwell played that amazing innings and got us over the line. So different parts of the game, we're going to attack both. So it's just going to have to be play what's in front of us tomorrow.
Finally, some tennis action. Stefanos Tsitsipas came out on top against Matteo Berrettini in the quarterfinals of the Dubai Tennis Championship, winning 7-6, 1-6, 6-4 to reach his first semi-final since July last year. Now, the Netherlands' Tellen Griekspoor fought back from a set down to beat reigning champion Daniel Medvedev 2-6, 7-6, 7-5. Medvedev, the champion in Dubai, previously was handed a code violation for unsportsmanlike behavior after seeing the match point slip away, and that's in the second set. Now, at his frustration, it boiled over. Medvedev then accusing the umpire Abel Noah of applying double standards with Russian players. Noah hitting back, telling Medvedev that he treats players all the same. Let's hear from Daniel Medvedev.
Yeah, but we actually did talk already after the match, and you know what happens on court. Sometimes I go too far, but again, I'm not going to discuss too much about it. I was not happy with one of his decisions, and it can happen. We talked after the match. We how to say, calm down the situation. Even if there was nothing hot and boiling, I respect him a lot. Yeah, I maybe went just a bit too far.
That's Daniel Medvedev on the morning brief. That's a wrap. Yes.
Zaid, don't go away. Do you like having your microphone come on right when it's supposed to come on? Your soundbite playing exactly where you want it to play. Your guests coming on at the right point. Do you? That makes it easy, right?
It makes life so much easier.
Okay, so here's what you and I are going to do. Whatever happens between Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs this weekend, we are not going to make fun of Amakosi on Monday, because I've just been threatened by one Zelma Qidi,
oh,
technical producer, who says you and I will use a cell phone to broadcast if we so much as say anything bad about Kaizer Chiefs. So that's it.
I was wondering why my mic was being switched off at certain
freedom
points.
Of speech, but no freedom after speech.
Oh dear. Now let's see what happens come Monday.
Cheers,
all right. Thanks to us.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, you and I don't face these threats in Taoling because, I don't know, for some reason, Zelma...
because I'm not in studio, hey?
Yeah, also you don't say bad things about Kaizer Chiefs. Tell me about the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, saying that the G20 finance track meeting failed to reach consensus. Is this to do with the climate financing?
That's right, Thulas. And the Minister, Godongwana, expressed mixed feelings about the recent G20 finance ministers and central governors meeting. On one hand, he said he's satisfied with the agreed upon work program, but on the other hand, he's disappointed that the meeting couldn't produce a consensus on certain issues. Interestingly, we know that the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent didn't attend. Japan's Finance Minister Katsunobu Katsu and Brazil's Finance Minister Fernando Haddad also didn't attend the gathering in Cape Town. But Godongwana downplayed the impact of their absence, saying that top officials from those countries were still represented. The lack of consensus in the meantime wasn't unusual, according to Godongwana, as it has been challenging to reach a joint agreement since the Russia-Ukraine war. Climate finance, as you mentioned at the top, was one of the issues that couldn't be agreed upon, with some countries having different views on managing it. And it's within this backdrop that the IMF's MD, Kristalina Georgieva, emphasized the need for cooperation among countries, citing high uncertainties around economic policies and rising risks to the global economy.
Tell me about SPAR posting decline in sales. Is that informed by the condition of the consumer in some of the regions where they operate?
You're absolutely right, Tula. So overall sales from continuing operations for the 18 weeks ended January declined 1.6%. It does seem a bit tepid, but it seems like markets were expecting a recovery on that front. Now, this downbeat performance in its overall sales was due to sales pressure in key markets, both locally and internationally. Although the retailer's local operations performed better than its overseas operations, sales growth was still muted. Now, in Southern Africa, retail sales growth was at 3.4%, with same-store sales growth at 3%, slightly ahead of national inflation. But sales growth was affected by the planned closure of 13 grocery stores, lower promotional activity, and erratic supply into Mozambique. SPAR's offshore operations struggled, with its BWG Group business in Ireland and Southwest England reporting a 1.6% sales decrease in euro terms, while SPAR Switzerland saw a 5.2% decline in turnover. And in a News 24 article, analysts expressed concerns about SPAR's performance, with some saying that the performance was quite disappointing, while others pointed out that the retailer is reconfiguring its business, closing underperforming stores and focusing on margin improvements. And so they expect that business to turn around in the next 6 months or so.
All right, Dowling, lastly, today's a Friday. What kind of a day do we have in store in as far as markets go?
Things are not looking pretty to us. It's the last day of trade for February, and we're likely to get a negative start following global markets. Looking at company news, results out from Northern Platinum and MTN Nigeria. So traders will be waking up to that. Over on the currency front, the rand really holding up well despite the risk-off sentiment. It's still sitting at 18.49 to the dollar. And then sentiment mixed in the US as investors assess the impact of tariffs and await PCE figures out later today. Over in Asia, markets on track to close the month in the red as investors remain worried about the trade policies and the impact it could have on the global economy.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela there. She's kept you updated on the economy, business, and the markets over the last 3 hours here on the show.
Okay, Lehasa, we are recording 3, 2, 1, go.
A cold case is opened 39 years later after the body of a young man is discovered in a derelict building. There are 4 suspects. Suspect 1, a clergyman. Suspect 2, an eminent entrepreneur.
I really, those people are always shady.
Suspect 3, a community worker.
Hey, what are you saying?
And suspect 4, a wheelchair-bound husband caring for his wife.
Hey, and the fella you can't.
Each has a secret to hide. As their lies unravel, the people that they love the most begin to wonder what else they might be capable of. Nothing in this case is black and white. Can you ever really know the people closest to you? What secrets have they buried? Tune into Unforgotten Season 1, Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Starts 24 February only on S3. Tabo, don't tell me that the script freaked you out. Where are you?
The Blue Diamonds want to display superior performance and shine with victory in their opening match of the new season. But the newcomers, Ezemvelo ladies, are on a mission to demonstrate why they deserve to be in the Big Girls League. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Gauteng tackles KZN. Catch Mzansi Queens of the Beautiful Game. JPW Ladies versus Ezemvelo Ladies. The Sunday 2 March at 11:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, Sunday World keeps you updated. Get breaking news, sports action, and exclusive celeb scoops at your fingertips. Read it, stream it, listen to it. Sunday World, news for all, anytime, anywhere.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
A follow-through and a conversation we started a few days ago with recent suggestions by the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi to introduce Mandarin and Kiswahili into the public education system in the province. There have been questions raised about the process of introducing new languages into the school curriculum. For clarity on the process followed to introduce new languages into the schooling system, I'm joined now by Elijah Mhlanga, who is the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. Good morning to you, Elijah. So education, basic education is one of those areas of shared responsibility between province and national government. But on a policy basis, how easy would it be to implement something like what the Premier of Gauteng is suggesting?
Good morning to Thulasizwe. Well, it would have to start at the policy making point, which is the Department of Basic Education. But the good thing about this one is that already way back in 2015, the Minister of Basic Education at the time, Mrs. Njimotseha, made an announcement and actually issued a notice that she intended introducing Kiswahili as well as Mandarin in schools. And since then, some schools have implemented it in other parts of the country. And at the time, the current Premier of Gauteng, he was MEC for Education. And he was one of those that expressed interest in getting some of these schools to participate in the introduction of these languages.
That's interesting, Elijah, and possibly I wasn't paying attention to that area of public life. So you are saying to us, one caller actually said, Panyaza is smoking something. He's not, because this is something that was mooted much earlier on, and he's simply following through on a policy direction that had been taken.
Absolutely. In March 2015, the minister issued a notice, and in July of that year, she actually spoke about it in her budget vote speech. I know this because I wrote that document. So it's there, and you will find it there that there was even support at the time. And the context of it is that we are looking at the economy of the country and the partnerships that we have with other countries, and China is our biggest trading partner, as you know, and we are one of our biggest trading partners. And we feel that as a country, we also need to enable our children to be exposed to that language. There's a lot of traveling between South Africa and China that takes place on a daily basis, but we also have hundreds of learners, if not thousands, who are studying in China, who appreciate the initiative that it equips them with the skill they need for them to be able to do business in that country. But let me make this clear. These subjects are not compulsory. Eh? These are not compulsory. They are actually optional. Even in schools, they are not forced to take these subjects. And the Chinese government, through the embassy here in South Africa, did confirm that they will support this financially by bringing in tutors who are going to take the work of supporting our learners. So as much as the Premier was saying this, we need to know that it's supported by the government of China in terms of Mandarin, in terms of Kiswahili. We are also working with other organizations on the continent, because we feel that it has to be an African project for it to succeed.
Elijah, hold on a second. Let me bring in one of our callers, one of our listeners into the conversation. Fred in Durban. Good morning. You want to weigh in on this conversation?
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks a lot, man. I want to check with Elijah. The Department of Education, they are doing something that is very contrary to the expectation of people, especially the citizens. The question that I have is that to say we're having 11 languages in South Africa. Why are they bringing in the languages that are contrary to the languages of South Africa? And what benefit will we as the citizen of this country benefit from Mandarin? And what is it that is going to benefit those who will be learning it? Because I don't think they will be able to implement it in any field.
All right.
Please let him just respond to that.
Sure.
Because
Gotcha.
really this is contra mores to the expectation of the citizen of this country.
Fred, gotcha. Elijah, your response?
No, that's a very simple question to answer. What the caller does not know, or maybe chooses to ignore, is the fact that we have almost all of the Indian languages in the curriculum. Tamil, Urdu, Gujarati, all of them are there. French is there. Italian is there. Portuguese is there. All you need to do is to look at the timetable of grade 12 examinations. You'll see that actually we have about 10 or more languages that are outside the official language category, which are available in schools. And learners take those languages. They wouldn't be in the timetable if there was no interest. Learners choose to take those languages. I know of many colleagues of mine as well who chose to take French and are able to go to France and other French-speaking countries where they're able to do business. So if you don't want that for your child, you are free to tell your child not to take it, but don't say other children what benefit is going to give. Just check how many young people are in China, how many young people are in Russia, for example, from South Africa. We know this because some of them we give bursaries to, others we clear their studies, we give them documents to go study there. And the feedback that they give us is such that they actually appreciate the efforts that we are making.
All right, Elijah, let's leave it there for this morning. That's Elijah Mhlanga, who is the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It stays heavy on Joburg's N3 this morning. It's been a real mission from about 6 o'clock to get up from Hermiston through Gululis and into Edenvale. It's a broken down vehicle that's been stuck around the Edenvale exit. That's being cleared, but there's now another obstruction there. So from roundabout Van Buren through the interchange to Modderfontein, it stays heavy. The M1 South stationary vehicle near Samran, so a bit of a backlog just forming back towards the old Johannesburg Road exit. If you're driving Pietermaritzburg to Durban this morning, the route is clear right through to central Durban. No major troubles at Cliffdale either. That run through looks free of any obstruction. So that's good news. Cape Town, a pedestrian crash just before the airport. It's on the N2 outbound. There's quite a heavy queue approaching that scene. The N7 going north, a crash before Plattercliff Road queuing traffic. The N1 outbound is stuck in that 40 to 45 minute backlog from Old Oak Road through to Brighton Road at Kryfontein. That run out through Brackenfell direction, Paarl and Stellenbosch is a mission. It's day 2 of that. Should avoid it and get onto some alternative routes. And we're just looking at some queuing traffic starting to backlog on the N2 outbound at Spine Road, as it did yesterday also. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair is here. It's time to treat yourself at your fabulous fragrance destination. Big date coming up? Find a fragrance that makes it unforgettable. Crushing it in the boardroom. Make an impression before you even speak. From fresh and floral to bold and unforgettable, get your perfect fragrance match at Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair. Hurry, deals end 16 March.
The intelligence of varsity students will be witnessed on the field of play between UJ ladies and UCT ladies. They both want to kick off the new season with 3 points. Who will pass this test with a distinction, UJ or UCT? This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the varsity derby between University of Johannesburg ladies and University of Cape Town ladies the Sunday 2 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, I love how this is going to play out. You remember there was an old ad that says, George, are you George? I'm looking for George. Are you George? I think it was post office or something. I've found George. In fact, I've not just found George. I've found 2 Georges, and they want to talk about the same thing. So George 1 in East London. Good morning to you. You want to talk to me about school languages?
Yes, morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I would like to say that the introduction of an African language is a very good initiative. As Africans, we must start to find each other and be able to communicate. And this can only begin if we have one language where we can be able to communicate with each other. So, if we have started in South Africa, I hope that it can be initiated and implemented in all other African countries.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Imagine you are in the middle of USA, and I'm a South African. I meet someone from Malawi, and suddenly we know there is one language we can start to communicate with each other. It really is something.
Yeah.
We should be supported.
George, I hear you. Thank you for that. That's George 1 in East London. George 2 is in Cape Town, also on the same issue. Good morning to you, George.
Morning, Thulas. First time caller ever on radio.
Welcome, man.
Thank you. I've always listened and been shy to talk.
Thank you.
Thulas, I think personally I would support the idea of getting like Mandarin or Swahili. However, my issue is if we bring in tutors from China, we're essentially exporting them to come here and they are being paid. We're not creating jobs. But if the Chinese government will take our own kids, train them in China, and then they come and teach, that will also create jobs. But also, we all know which languages are used to colonize. So we might as well just gain something in the process by getting our kids taught in China, coming back and teaching. Then in that case, we're still creating jobs. That's my.
No, I hear what you're saying. Thank you for that. That's George in Cape Town there weighing in on that policy. I hear exactly what he's saying, that perhaps a better way of going about it, as Elijah was explaining, that in as far as Mandarin is concerned, the funding for those tutors actually comes and is supported by the government of China, basically bringing in tutors from China. And George, they're saying that perhaps an idea would be to get South African young people to go and learn the language and then come back and teach. I hear the point that he's making. Let me take one or two other voice notes. Let me take this one on data prices, which is one of the topics that has been on the table this morning.
Hello, this is Zig of Randburg saying that the ANC comrades in charge of Vodacom and MTN are not aware that they could more than double their over-enriching profits if they halved the price of data. Shame on the ANC's comrades at Vodacom and MTN.
No, I hear the point you're making, Zig. Thank you for making it, but I don't know if you can accurately describe the people that run Vodacom and MTN and other companies as ANC comrades, but that's a side point. The point you are making, I take it fully.
Hi, Thulasizwe. It was not easy to register a business. You know, there are some document that was needed, but it was costing a lot of money to get it. Although some of some business didn't manage to register, but I've been trying by all means to register my spaza shop. I've already registered my spaza shop. I'm Kululego Duma from Harding at Santombe.
Yeah, Nkululego, thank you for that. Just the lived experience of trying to comply with this directive for spaza shops and other food handling businesses to be registered. Thank you for that, for making that point about some of the difficulties that you encountered. I'm glad you could manage to get it done in time.
Morning, Thulasizwe at the Stabism Bloemfontein. Since Donald Trump has come up and cancelled this fund, US aid, don't you think it's high time that we should investigate the origin of HIV and AIDS? Where did it start? Maybe it started in America, we don't know. And they should be held responsible for that.
No, I hear the point you are making as well. That's been an age-old debate about the origins of HIV and AIDS and its progression and spread around the world, and the resources being dedicated to combat HIV and AIDS. But I'd say to you that the reality we face right now is that we have HIV and AIDS circulating in our societies, and we have a responsibility to respond to it one way or another. With or without US aid, that responsibility doesn't go away. And I'd say that's a short answer that I would give to you, but I hear the point that you are making. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana is up next here on SAFM, but that's after the news.
In our top stories, Township Economic Commission weighs in on spaza shop registration deadline, and Trump hosts UK Prime Minister for talks on Ukraine. Good morning. The Township Economic Commission says the registration deadline will not affect people intending to open new food outlets, including tuck shops or spaza shops. Today is the deadline for the registration of the businesses. President Cyril Ramaphosa had ordered the registration of the businesses in November last year in response to issues of food safety. This followed cases related to food poisoning in which at least 20 children died. The Commission's President Bheki Twala says the deadline only applies to owners of existing shops.
It simply means as well, if you want to start a spaza shop, let's say from Monday, you can then start that process. You finish the process, then you open. Meaning, in other words, you won't open a spaza shop before you then complete the process if it's a new spaza shop. The whole registration is for those that are operating currently without permits, without having the trade permits, without having the COA, the certificate of acceptability, without also having the documents that are needed in terms of food handling to make sure that our consumers are protected.
Meanwhile, some owners of food outlets, including tuck shops and spaza shops, have started to queue to register their businesses at the Civic Centre in Soweto. Our reporter, Thulasizwe Simelane, is in Soweto.
We are also expecting to be speaking to them just to check how are they feeling, just to check their reaction on the last day of the registrations today. We know that the deadline was open for only 21 days last year until it was extended to today, and we understand that over 21,000 spaza shops have applied to register.
Cabinet says on the 20th of next month, the Social Security Agency, SASSA's gold cards will stop working. It says the extended deadline for the replacement of the existing gold cards is final. The gold cards will be replaced by the black cards belonging to Postbank. Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Njabeni, has urged